On Christmas Eve, executive assistant Evelyn Moore sent a photo that should have ended her career. A bold, reckless lingerie shot meant to wound her cheating ex. Instead, it landed in the inbox of Victor Hale, the most dangerous man in the city. Not because he fired her, because he didn't. What began as the worst mistake of her life became something far more terrifying: his undivided attention. If you want to see how one wrong click changed everything, stay until the end. Hit like and comment your city so I can see how far Evelyn's story travels. The office was empty. Evelyn Moore sat at her desk on the 42nd floor of Hale Industries, surrounded by the kind of silence that only existed after everyone else had fled for the holidays. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, Chicago glittered with Christmas lights, each building a monument to celebration she couldn't feel. The city hummed with joy while she drowned in humiliation. Her phone sat beside her keyboard like a loaded gun. 3 hours ago, she'd found them. Marcus, her boyfriend of 2 years, and Jessica from accounting, tangled together in the break room of his office building. She'd gone to surprise him with cookies she'd baked that morning, wearing the stupid reindeer sweater he'd said he loved. Instead, she'd gotten the surprise. His hands in Jessica's hair, her laugh against his mouth, both of them so wrapped up in each other they hadn't even heard the door open. Evelyn had left without a word. Came straight back here, to the one place that made sense when nothing else did. Now her fingers trembled over her phone screen, hovering over the photo she'd taken an hour ago in the executive bathroom. Black lace, red lips, the kind of defiant, reckless confidence that only came from 2 glasses of wine and a shattered heart. Let him see what he's losing, she'd thought. Let him choke on it. She pulled up Marcus's contact, attached the photo, typed, "You chose wrong." Her thumb hovered over the send button. "Just do it," she whispered to the empty office. "Send it and be done with him." She pressed send. The whoosh of the message leaving felt like victory for exactly 3 seconds. Then her wine-fogged brain cleared just enough to register the name at the top of the conversation thread. Not Marcus Chen, Victor Hale, her boss, the CEO. The man whose coffee she brought every morning at precisely 7:15, whose meetings she scheduled, whose emails she filtered, whose existence she orbited from a carefully maintained distance of professional invisibility. The man the entire city whispered about. The one whose business competitors disappeared into bankruptcy, whose political enemies found themselves exposed in scandals they swore were fabricated, whose romantic interests never lasted more than a month and never spoke about him afterward, not because they'd signed NDAs, but because they were too terrified to say his name out loud. Victor Hale, who'd built an empire before he turned 35, and ruled it with the kind of cold precision that made grown men stammer in board meetings. That Victor Hale. "No." The word came out as a whimper. "No, no, 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 no." Evelyn's hand shook so violently she nearly dropped her phone. She pulled up the message thread, praying she'd misread, praying the wine had made her see things, praying to any force in the universe that might take pity on a complete idiot. But there it was, clear as glass, the photo she'd sent, the message beneath it, and above both, in stark lettering, Victor Hale. Her stomach lurched. She was going to be sick. She was going to pass out. She was going to delete it. She could delete it, if she was fast enough, if he hadn't seen it yet. Her finger jabbed at the screen, but the option wasn't there. The message had been delivered. Read receipt pending. She couldn't unsend it, couldn't take it back, couldn't erase the most catastrophically stupid thing she'd ever done in her carefully controlled life. "Oh my God!" She stood abruptly, her chair rolling backward and hitting the window with a soft thud. "Oh my God, I just sent my boss a... Her phone buzzed. Evelyn's heart stopped. She looked down at the screen, already knowing what she'd see, but hoping desperately she was wrong. A new message right there in the thread with Victor Hale. Victor Hale. Wrong number? 3 words. Casual. Almost amused? No. No, Victor Hale didn't do amused. He did cold, controlled, cutting. She'd worked for him for 18 months and seen him smile exactly twice, both times during negotiations where he'd quietly destroyed the person across the table from him. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She should apologize, explain, throw herself on his mercy and beg for her job, her dignity, whatever scraps he might allow her to keep. Instead, she typed, "I'm so sorry, Mr. Hale. That was meant for someone else. Please delete it. I'll submit my resignation first thing tomorrow." She hit send before she could second-guess the wording. Professional, contrite, offering to fall on her sword before he could push her onto it. The 3 dots appeared immediately. He was typing, right now. On Christmas Eve, at 8:30 at night, Victor Hale was in his penthouse or his car or wherever powerful men went when they weren't terrorizing boardrooms, and he was responding to his assistant's accidental lingerie photo. Evelyn was definitely going to throw up. Victor Hale. No, that was it. One word. Evelyn stared at her phone. No? No to what? No, he wouldn't delete it? No, he wouldn't accept her resignation? No, he was going to make her suffer first? Her phone buzzed again. Victor Hale. You're not resigning. Come to my office. Now. The words hit her like ice water. His office. Now, on Christmas Eve. After she just sent him a photo that would get most people fired, blacklisted, possibly arrested for harassment. She should run, pack her desk, leave her badge on the security desk, disappear into the Chicago night and never come back. Change her name, move to another city, become someone who didn't make career-ending mistakes fueled by cheap wine and cheaper judgment. But Evelyn Moore had never run from anything in her life. She'd worked too hard to get here, put herself through college while caring for her sick mother, clawed her way up from temp positions to a role at one of the most powerful companies in the country. She'd survived poverty, loss, and Marcus's betrayal. She could survive Victor Hale's fury, probably. She grabbed her phone, smoothed down her skirt, and walked toward the executive elevator on legs that felt like water. The hallway stretched endlessly before her, each step echoing in the silence. When she reached the elevator, she pressed the button for the 45th floor, executive level, where she only went to deliver documents or sit in on meetings where she was expected to be invisible and silent. The elevator doors closed. Her reflection stared back at her from the polished steel. Brown hair falling loose from its usual neat bun, mascara slightly smudged, reindeer sweater somehow making everything worse. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who'd made a spectacular mistake and was about to pay for it. The elevator climbed, her heart hammered. She tried to prepare herself for whatever came next. His anger, his disgust, his cold dismissal. Tried to imagine how she'd respond with dignity and tact. The doors opened. The 45th floor was dark except for a single light at the far end of the hall. Victor's office. Of course he was still here. Men like Victor Hale didn't take holidays. They took territory. Evelyn walked down the corridor, her heels clicking against marble. Through the glass walls of empty offices, Chicago's Christmas lights twinkled like they were mocking her. She reached his door, solid oak, imposing, slightly ajar. She knocked softly. "Come in, Evelyn." His voice was exactly as she remembered from 1,000 morning briefings. Deep, controlled, absolutely certain. It went through her like a current. She pushed the door open. Victor Hale stood by the window, silhouetted against the city lights. He didn't turn around. Just stood there, hands in his pockets, perfectly still in the way that made other people fidget and confess things they'd never meant to say. "Close the door." Evelyn did. The soft click felt final. "Sit." There were 2 chairs facing his desk. She chose the one on the left and perched on its edge, hands folded in her lap, trying to look smaller than she felt. Victor finally turned around. She'd seen him nearly every day for 18 months, but it never got easier. He was tall, 6'3" or 6'4", with dark hair that was always perfectly styled, sharp features that looked like they'd been carved rather than born, and eyes so dark they were almost black. He wore power like other men wore cologne, deliberately, effectively, and with complete awareness of its impact. Tonight he'd taken off his jacket and loosened his tie. Sleeves rolled up, top button undone. It was the most casual she'd ever seen him, and somehow it made him more dangerous, not less. He walked to his desk, leaned against it, and studied her with an expression she couldn't read. "Tell me," he said quietly, "who was that photo meant for?" Evelyn's throat went dry. My ex-boyfriend. I found him with someone else today. I wanted..." She trailed off, heat flooding her face. It doesn't matter. It was stupid and unprofessional, and I'm sorry, Victor finished for her. Yes, you've said that. Multiple times. He tilted his head slightly. Are you? Am I what? Sorry. His gaze didn't waver. Or are you just sorry you sent it to the wrong person? The question landed like a challenge. Evelyn opened her mouth to give him the answer he expected. The safe one, the professional one. But something in his expression stopped her. He wasn't angry, wasn't disgusted. He was waiting, like her answer actually mattered. I'm sorry I sent it to you, she said slowly. You didn't deserve to be dragged into my mess. But I'm not sorry I took it. The words came out stronger than she'd expected. I'm not sorry I wanted him to see what he lost. That part, I'd do again. Silence stretched between them. Victor's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or respect. Good, he said finally. Don't apologize for having a spine, Evelyn. It's one of the few qualities I actually value in people. He straightened, moving behind his desk. Your ex-boyfriend is an idiot. She blinked. Sir? Marcus Chen. Works in finance at Whitmore and Associates. Drives a leased BMW he can't afford. Cheats on his girlfriend with women who laugh too loud and think ambition means showing cleavage in client meetings. Victor picked up a file from his desk, her personnel file, she realized with a jolt. He's an idiot, and you're better off without him. Evelyn's mind reeled. How do you know his name? How do you... I know everything about the people who work for me. He set the file down, his gaze meeting hers. Including the fact that you've been with him for 2 years, he's never once picked you up from work, and you deserve significantly better than someone who doesn't recognize what's right in front of him. Heat crept up her neck. You've been paying attention to my personal life? I pay attention to everything, Evelyn. It's how I stay alive in a world full of people who want to see me destroyed. He moved around the desk, closer to her. Not threatening, just present. Impossible to ignore. You think I don't notice when my best assistant comes to work exhausted because she spent the night at the hospital with her mother? When she brings me coffee exactly how I like it without being asked? When she handles my schedule better than I do and never, not once, asks for credit or recognition? She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Victor Hale had just listed things about her life she'd never told him, never mentioned, had worked hard to keep private because personal problems had no place in professional settings. I notice you, he said quietly. I've noticed you since the day you started. The air between them felt charged, dangerous. Evelyn knew she should stand up, excuse herself, retreat to the safe distance of employer-employee boundaries. But she couldn't move, couldn't look away from eyes that saw too much. Mr. Hale? Victor. His voice was soft but absolute. When it's just us, you call me Victor. That's not... We can't... She struggled to find words that made sense. I work for you. There are rules, boundaries. There are. He didn't move closer, but his presence seemed to fill the space anyway. And I followed them. For 18 months, I've kept my distance, kept things professional, kept my hands to myself even when all I wanted was to touch you. His jaw tightened. But you sent me that photo, Evelyn. You opened a door, so I'm asking, do you want me to close it? Do you want me to pretend I didn't see you, really see you, for the first time without all your carefully constructed walls? Her heart was a drum against her ribs. What do you want? That's not the right question. He leaned back slightly, giving her space. The right question is, what do you want? Because if you want to forget this happened, walk out of here, go back to professional distance, I'll make that happen. No consequences, no awkwardness. Your job is safe regardless. And if I don't want that? Victor's expression shifted, something dark and hungry flickering across his features before he controlled it. Then we acknowledge what's between us. We stop pretending. We see where this goes. This, Evelyn repeated. You mean... I mean I want you. The words were simple, direct, devastating. I've wanted you since you walked into my office 18 months ago and told me my previous assistant had organized my files incorrectly. You weren't intimidated, weren't trying to impress me. You just fixed the problem and moved on like my reputation meant nothing. He smiled slightly. It was the most attractive thing I'd ever seen. Evelyn's mind spun. This couldn't be real. Men like Victor Hale didn't want women like her. Quiet, ordinary, invisible. They wanted models and socialites and women who knew how to navigate their world with the same ruthless grace they did. But he was looking at her like she was the only thing in the room that mattered. I'm not, she gestured helplessly at herself. I'm not what I usually date. Victor's smile turned sharp. Women who want my money, my connections, my last name on their social media? You're right. You're nothing like them. He moved closer, just one step. You're real, Evelyn. You work harder than anyone I know. You care about people. You bake cookies for a boyfriend who doesn't deserve them, and you wear reindeer sweaters unironically, and you somehow make both of those things seem like the most valuable qualities in the world. Tears pricked her eyes. She didn't know if it was from the day's emotional whiplash or from hearing someone describe her like she was worth something. This is crazy. Probably. He didn't argue. I'm asking you to trust me anyway. I don't know if I can. The honesty felt raw. Everyone says you're dangerous, that people who cross you disappear, that you're a monster. He said it calmly, like he'd heard it before. I've been called worse. And some of it's true, Evelyn. I'm not a good man. I've done things that would horrify you. I've destroyed competitors, ruined enemies, made choices that kept me up at night. His gaze held hers. But I've never hurt someone who didn't hurt me first. And I would never hurt you. The conviction in his voice made her believe him. She shouldn't. She barely knew him beyond morning briefings and professional correspondence. But something in her, some instinct she'd learned to trust during years of surviving on her own, said he was telling the truth. If I say yes, she whispered, what happens? We have dinner. Tomorrow night. If you're free. Somewhere private where we can talk without the whole city watching. His expression softened. I want to know you, Evelyn. The real you. Not just the professional version you show at work. And if it doesn't work out, then we end it cleanly. No drama. No consequences for your career. You have my word. He held out his hand. But I think it will work out. I think we could be extraordinary together. Evelyn stared at his outstretched hand. This was insane. Reckless. The kind of choice that led to disaster, just like sending the photo had been. And look where that had gotten her. Sitting in Victor Hale's office on Christmas Eve, being offered something she'd never even let herself imagine. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and certain. He pulled her gently to her feet, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and dark that made her head swim. Thank you, he said quietly, for trusting me. I haven't decided yet if I do, but she didn't pull her hand away. Victor smiled, a real smile this time, not the calculating expression he wore in meetings. Fair enough. I'll earn it. He released her hand slowly. Go home, Evelyn. Get some sleep. I'll pick you up tomorrow at 7. You don't know where I live. Yes, I do. At her sharp look, he added, I told you. I know everything about the people who work for me. It's not romantic, but it's thorough. Despite everything, she laughed. It bubbled up from somewhere deep and surprised them both. That's a terrible line. I don't use lines, I use facts. But his eyes were warm. 7 o'clock. Wear whatever makes you feel like yourself. Evelyn nodded, still trying to process what had just happened. She turned toward the door, then paused. Victor? Yes? The photo. Her face burned. Are you going to delete it? He was quiet for a moment. Do you want me to? She should say yes, should demand he erase it, forget it, pretend it never existed. But when she turned back, his expression stopped her, heat and hunger and something almost reverent. No, she said softly. Keep it. Just don't show anyone else. Never. The word was a vow. That's between you and me. She left his office feeling like gravity had shifted. The elevator ride down seemed faster, the hallway less empty. By the time she reached her desk to grab her coat and purse, her phone was buzzing with texts from Marcus, apologies mixed with accusations, desperation wrapped in blame. She deleted them all without reading past the first line. Then she pulled up her conversation with Victor and stared at his messages. Simple, direct, real. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from him. Victor Hale. For what it's worth, that photo is the best Christmas gift I've ever received. Not because of what it showed, but because it was the moment you decided to stop hiding. Don't hide from me, Evelyn. I want to see all of you. She read it 3 times. Memorized it. Let it sink into the broken places Marcus had left behind. Then she typed back, I'll try. His response came immediately. That's all I'm asking. Evelyn grabbed her things and headed for the elevator, but this time she took the main one instead of the executive lift. As the doors closed, she caught her reflection again. Same messy hair, same smudged mascara, same ridiculous reindeer sweater. But she was smiling. The next day, Evelyn woke to Chicago buried in snow. White drifts covered the streets, softening the city's hard edges. She spent the morning cleaning her apartment, trying on and discarding 6 different outfits, and aggressively not thinking about the fact that she had a date with Victor Hale in 9 hours. By noon, she'd given up on not thinking about it. By 3, she'd called her best friend Sarah, who worked in PR and had opinions about everything. You did what? Sarah's voice crackled through the phone, equal parts horrified and delighted. I sent my boss an accidental lingerie photo, and now he's taking me to dinner. Evelyn stared at her closet hopelessly. Help me. Okay, first of all, iconic. Second, is this the boss you've been low-key in love with since you started working there? I haven't been, Evelyn sighed, maybe a little, but it was completely one-sided and professional, and I never, babe, you talk about him in your sleep. I do not. You did at my New Year's party last year. Katie recorded it. Want me to send you the video? Evelyn groaned and flopped onto her bed. This is a disaster. What am I doing? He's Victor Hale. I'm nobody. Stop that right now. Sarah's voice went sharp. You're brilliant, gorgeous, and apparently confident enough to send lingerie photos to billionaire CEOs. Own it. It was an accident. The photo was. The fact that you took it in the first place? That was all you, honey. You decided to be bold. You decided to say, screw Marcus, and take back your power. So what if it landed in the wrong inbox? Best wrong number ever. Despite her nerves, Evelyn smiled. You really think I should go? I think you should wear that black dress I bought you for your birthday, the one you said was too fancy for your life. I think you should let this man take you somewhere expensive and treat you like you matter. And I think you should stop apologizing for taking up space in the world. Sarah paused. Also, I want all the details tomorrow, every single one. Spare nothing. By 6:30, Evelyn was ready. The black dress fit perfectly, sophisticated but not trying too hard, expensive but understated. She'd tamed her hair into soft waves, applied makeup with an actual steady hand, and even found the heels she'd bought on sale and never worn because they seemed too impractical for real life. She looked like someone who belonged on Victor Hale's arm. The thought terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. At 6:55, her apartment buzzer rang. She grabbed her coat and purse, took one last look in the mirror, and went downstairs. Victor stood beside a black car that probably cost more than her annual salary, snowflakes catching in his dark hair. He wore a charcoal suit that looked custom-made and an expression that went warm when he saw her. Evelyn, he said her name like it meant something. You look beautiful. Thank you. She let him help her into the car, hyper-aware of his hand at her elbow, the way he made sure she was settled before closing the door. He slid into the seat beside her, not across, beside, close enough that she could feel his warmth. The driver pulled smoothly into traffic. Where are we going? She asked. My place. At her sharp look, he added quickly, I have a chef preparing dinner. I thought we'd be more comfortable somewhere private, without photographers or social media, or people trying to figure out who you are and why you're with me. His jaw tightened. I want to protect your privacy for as long as possible. The moment the press finds out we're seeing each other, your life changes. I'm trying to give you time before that happens. Evelyn hadn't thought about that part, about what it would mean to be seen with him. Do they always find out? Eventually. I have enemies, Evelyn. People who'd love nothing more than to find a weakness they can exploit. If they know I care about you. He didn't finish the sentence, didn't need to. Maybe this is a bad idea, she whispered. Victor's hand found hers in the darkness of the car. Maybe. But I'm a selfish man, and I want you anyway. I want to know if you always wear reindeer sweaters during the holidays. I want to know why you take your coffee black even though you hate it. I want to know what makes you laugh when you think no one's listening. His thumb traced circles on her palm. And I want you to know me. Not the version the media sells or my competitors fear. The real version. The one who still misses his mother even though she died 20 years ago. The one who collects first edition books and can't cook to save his life. The one who's terrified he's going to mess this up because you're the first real thing that's happened to him in years. Evelyn's heart cracked open. You're not what I expected. Neither are you. You're better. He lifted her hand, pressed his lips to her knuckles. Give me tonight, Evelyn. Let me prove I'm worth the risk. They drove through Chicago's glittering streets to a building that rose like a monolith against the night sky. Victor's penthouse occupied the entire top floor, all glass and steel, and breathtaking views of the city stretched out below like offerings. But what caught Evelyn's attention wasn't the luxury. It was the books. Hundreds of them, lining built-in shelves, stacked on tables, scattered in piles near chairs that looked actually used rather than decorative. You weren't kidding about the first editions, she murmured, moving toward a shelf. They're my weakness. Victor helped her out of her coat. Most people think I collect them as investments. They're wrong. I collect them because stories matter, because someone's words surviving 100 years means something. Evelyn pulled out a volume, recognizing it immediately. The Great Gatsby. First printing? 1925. Fitzgerald's inscription to Zelda is still inside. He moved beside her, close enough that their shoulders brushed. Do you read? Constantly. It drove Marcus crazy. He said I lived in fantasy worlds instead of reality. She put the book back carefully. He wasn't wrong. Reality hasn't been particularly kind. Then we'll build you a better one. Victor's hand settled at the small of her back, warm through the thin fabric of her dress. Come, dinner's ready. He led her to a dining room dominated by windows and set with understated elegance. The chef had left them alone, by design, Evelyn suspected. Victor wanted privacy, wanted her comfortable, wanted this to be about them rather than performance. They sat across from each other, close enough to touch, far enough to maintain the illusion of restraint. Tell me about your mother, Victor said as he poured wine. You spend a lot of time at the hospital. Evelyn accepted the glass, surprised he'd started there instead of safer topics. She has early onset Alzheimer's. Some days she knows me. Some days I'm a stranger. I'm all she has, so I visit whenever I can. That's why you never join the office happy hours. Why you leave exactly at 5:30 every day. I didn't think you noticed. I notice everything about you, Evelyn. I told you that. He studied her across the candlelight. It must be difficult, watching her forget. It's the worst thing in the world, she admitted. Worse than losing her would be, because I lose her a little more every day and she's still here, suffering through it. Some nights I wish... She stopped, the confession too raw. That it would end, Victor finished quietly. That she'd find peace and you'd stop watching her slip away. Tears pricked Evelyn's eyes. That makes me a terrible daughter. It makes you human. He reached across the table, covering her hand with his. Love isn't always enough to fix things. Sometimes all we can do is bear witness to the pain and refuse to look away. You do that for her every day. That's not terrible, that's brave. Something in Evelyn's chest loosened. She'd never told anyone how she really felt about her mother's illness. Not Sarah, not Marcus, not the support group counselor who kept using phrases like celebrate the good days. But Victor understood. He didn't try to fix it or minimize it. He just saw it. Your turn, she said, needing to shift the weight. Tell me about your mother. Victor's expression went distant. She died when I was 15. Car accident. One moment she was there, the next... He shrugged, but the gesture was anything but casual. My father fell apart afterward. Started drinking, stopped working, let the business our family had built for 3 generations crumble. I had to step in, had to become someone I wasn't ready to be. I was still a kid, but suddenly I was responsible for saving everything. Did you? Save it? I rebuilt it from nothing, made it bigger, stronger, untouchable. His smile was sharp. I also made a lot of enemies in the process. Turns out people don't like it when a teenager outsmarts them. Is that why you're so... Evelyn searched for the right word. Controlled? Controlled. He considered it. That's diplomatic. Most people say ruthless, cold, dangerous. You're not cold. The words came out before she could stop them. You're careful. There's a difference. Victor's gaze locked on hers, intense enough to steal breath. You see me, he said softly. Actually see me. Do you know how rare that is? Maybe people aren't looking closely enough. Or maybe you're the only one brave enough to look past the armor. He stood, moving around the table to her side, held out his hand. Dance with me. There was no music, but Evelyn took his hand anyway. He pulled her close, one hand at her waist, the other cradling hers against his chest. They swayed in silence, the city lights below them like stars, the space between them charged with everything they weren't saying. I'm scared, Evelyn whispered against his shoulder. Of me? Of this. Of wanting something I'm not supposed to have. She pulled back slightly to look at him. You're my boss, Victor. This breaks every rule. Then we'll rewrite them. His hand tightened at her waist. I'll find you a different position. Same salary, same benefits, different reporting structure. You won't work for me anymore. Problem solved. That's simple? For me? Yes. His thumb traced her jaw, tilting her face up. I don't do things halfway, Evelyn. If we do this, I'm all in. Completely. No half measures, no backup plans. You become mine, and I become yours, and we figure out the rest as we go. Yours, she repeated, testing the word. Mine. His voice dropped, rough with want. Say yes, Evelyn. Stop thinking about all the ways this could go wrong and just say yes. She should be sensible, should think about her career, her reputation, the risk of getting involved with someone like him, should remember that she'd only just met the real Victor Hale, that one dinner didn't mean she really knew him, but she'd spent her whole life being sensible, being careful, being invisible. And where had it gotten her? Cheated on by a man who didn't see her worth, stuck in a life that felt too small for who she was becoming. Victor Hale saw her, really saw her, and he wanted her anyway. Yes, she breathed. Yes, I'm yours. His mouth came down on hers before the word finished leaving her lips. The kiss was nothing like she'd expected, not practiced or polished or smooth. It was hungry, desperate, real, like he'd been holding back for 18 months and finally had permission to let go. Evelyn kissed him back with equal fervor, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. He tasted like wine and want and promises she was terrified to believe. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Victor rested his forehead against hers. I'm not letting you go, he said roughly. Fair warning. Now that I have you, I'm not letting you go. Good, Evelyn whispered. Because I'm not ready to be let go. They stayed like that, wrapped in each other, the city sprawling below them and the future spreading out uncertain and thrilling and theirs for the taking. For the first time in months, maybe years, Evelyn felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The morning after their first date, Evelyn woke to sunlight streaming through her apartment windows and a text message that made her heart skip. Victor, good morning. I'm picking you up for lunch at noon. Wear something comfortable. We're going somewhere that matters. She stared at the message, still processing the fact that last night had actually happened. That she'd kissed Victor Hale in his penthouse, that she'd agreed to be his, that the most powerful man she'd ever met had looked at her like she was the only thing in the world worth seeing. Her phone buzzed again. Victor. And Evelyn? I meant what I said. You're mine now. I don't share. Heat flooded through her. She typed back with shaking fingers. Possessive much? Victor. You have no idea. See you at noon. She spent the next 3 hours in a daze, showering and changing and trying on outfits until she settled on jeans and a cream sweater, comfortable like he'd requested, but still put together enough that she didn't feel completely outclassed by his inevitable perfection. At 11:58, her buzzer rang. Victor stood outside her building in dark jeans and a leather jacket, looking nothing like the CEO she saw every day, and everything like trouble she wanted to get into. His eyes traveled over her slowly, appreciatively. Perfect, he said, taking her hand. Come on. We don't have much time. Time for what? He just smiled and led her to the car. They drove out of the city, heading north along the lake. Evelyn watched Chicago disappear behind them, replaced by suburbs and then open road. Victor's hand rested on her knee, casual and possessive, like touching her was the most natural thing in the world. Are you going to tell me where we're going? She asked. My family's house, or what's left of it. His expression went distant. I haven't been there since my father died 5 years ago. But I want you to see it. Want you to understand where I came from. The house appeared after 40 minutes of driving, a sprawling estate set back from the road, surrounded by bare trees and winter-dead gardens. It had probably been beautiful once. Now it just looked abandoned, windows dark, paint peeling, the whole structure sagging under the weight of neglect. Victor parked in the circular driveway and sat for a moment, hands tight on the steering wheel. You don't have to do this, Evelyn said softly. If it's too hard, I want to. He turned to her, something vulnerable in his eyes. I want you to know all of me, Evelyn. Not just the parts I've built. The parts I came from, too. They got out of the car. The wind off the lake was bitter, cutting through Evelyn's sweater. Victor unlocked the front door with a key he pulled from his wallet. Kept close, she realized, even though he hadn't used it in years. Inside, the house was frozen in time. Dust covered everything, but beneath it she could see the remnants of wealth. Expensive furniture, crystal chandeliers, family photos lining the walls. Victor moved through the rooms like a ghost, touching nothing, just looking. My mother decorated this room, he said, stopping in what had been a sitting area. She loved antiques, used to drag my father to estate sales every weekend. A small smile. He pretended to hate it, but he'd always find something to buy her, some little treasure she'd spotted but wouldn't let herself have. Evelyn studied a photo on the mantel. A younger Victor, maybe 10 years old, sandwiched between two people who had to be his parents. His mother was beautiful, dark-haired like him, laughing at something off camera. His father had his arm around her, looking at her like she'd hung the moon. They loved each other, she observed. Completely. It destroyed him when she died. Victor's jaw tightened. He couldn't function without her, just gave up, started drinking, stopped caring about the business, about me, about anything that wasn't the bottom of a bottle. He turned away from the photo. I was 15 and suddenly I was the adult, making decisions, handling creditors, trying to save what he was too broken to fight for. That's not fair, you were just a kid. Life isn't fair, Evelyn. I learned that early. He moved to the window, looking out at the overgrown gardens. I hated him for a long time. Hated that he chose grief over me, that he let everything fall apart rather than be strong enough to keep going. And now? Now I understand. Victor's voice went quiet. Now I know what it feels like to find someone who matters more than anything else. Someone you can't imagine existing without. He turned back to her. If I lost you, I don't know if I'd be strong enough to survive it either. Evelyn's breath caught. Victor, we've known each other for 18 months, I know, but I've been in love with you for at least 16 of them. He crossed the room to her, cupping her face in his hands. I know it's fast, I know it's intense, but I also know what I feel, and I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You can't love me. You don't know me well enough. I know you take your coffee black because you can't afford to waste money on cream and sugar. I know you visit your mother every Tuesday and Thursday after work, no matter how tired you are. I know you keep a photo of her on your desk from before she got sick, when she still knew your name. His thumbs stroked her cheeks. I know you stay late on Fridays to finish everyone else's work because you don't have anyone waiting for you at home. I know you're lonely, Evelyn, and I know I want to fix that. Tears spilled down her face. This is crazy. I don't care. He kissed her softly, gently, like she was something precious. Tell me you feel it too. Tell me I'm not alone in this. She wanted to admit that she'd been half in love with him since the first time he'd thanked her for coffee and actually meant it. Since the first time he'd asked her opinion in a meeting and listened like her answer mattered. Since she'd realized that underneath all the power and control was someone just as lonely as she was. But before she could answer, his phone rang. Victor's expression went hard. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and his whole body tensed. I need to take this. He stepped away, voice dropping to something cold and dangerous. What? Evelyn couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she watched Victor's face go from controlled to furious in seconds. When? A pause. How many? Another pause, longer this time. Don't do anything. I'm on my way. He hung up and turned to her, something dark in his expression. We need to go. Now. What's wrong? Someone leaked information about us. About you. He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the door. There are photographers outside your building, outside my office. Someone told them we're seeing each other, and now they want the story. Evelyn's stomach dropped. How is that possible? We've only been on one date. Someone's been watching, waiting. Victor's jaw clenched as he helped her into the car. This isn't random, Evelyn. This is targeted. They drove back to the city in tense silence, Victor's hand gripping hers like he was afraid she'd disappear. When they reached her building, she could see the cameras, the reporters clustered outside like vultures. I can't take you up there, Victor said tightly. They'll follow, get photos, turn this into something ugly. Then where? My place. You'll stay with me until this calms down. At her sharp look, he added, I have security, privacy. You'll be safe there. Victor, I can't just move into your penthouse because some photographers want pictures. Yes, you can. His voice left no room for argument. This is my world, Evelyn. This is what happens when people find out I care about someone. They dig, they exploit, they try to find weaknesses they can use. His grip on her hand tightened. I won't let them hurt you. I won't let them turn you into a target. Before she could respond, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. Evelyn Moore? A woman's voice, professional and cold. Yes? This is Amanda Price from Chicago Metro News. I'd love to get your comment on your relationship with Victor Hale. Our sources say you've been sleeping with your boss for months. Care to confirm? Evelyn's blood went cold. I don't know what you're... We also have information about a compromising photo you sent Mr. Hale. Would you like to tell your side of the story before we run it? The phone slipped from Evelyn's fingers. Victor caught it, his expression going deadly. This is Victor Hale, he said into the phone, voice like ice. You run that story, you mention Evelyn's name, you even hint at the existence of any photos, and I will destroy your career and your publication. Are we clear? Whatever Amanda said made his expression go even darker. Then I'll see you in court. He hung up and immediately made another call. James, I need our legal team ready. Someone's trying to blackmail Evelyn using that photo. Find out who leaked it and shut this down. A pause. I don't care what it costs. Handle it. Evelyn couldn't breathe. They have the photo. How do they have... I don't know. Victor pulled her against his chest, his heart hammering beneath her ear. But I'm going to find out, and I'm going to make them regret it. This is my fault. I sent it. No. He pulled back, forcing her to look at him. This is not your fault. Someone hacked my phone or my email. Someone violated both of us. You did nothing wrong. Everyone's going to see it. Everyone's going to know that you're beautiful, that you're mine. Let them know. His voice was fierce. I'm not ashamed of you, Evelyn. I'm not hiding this. If they want a story, I'll give them one. Victor Hale is in a relationship with an extraordinary woman, and anyone who has a problem with that can go to hell. Despite everything, a laugh bubbled out of her. That's your PR strategy? I don't need strategy. I have lawyers. He kissed her forehead. And I have you. That's all that matters. His phone rang again. This time it was his head of security. Sir, we have a situation. Someone delivered a package to your office. No return address. Security scanned it. It's clean, but there's a note inside addressed to you personally. Victor's expression went carefully blank. What does it say? I can't read it from here, sir, but Miss Moore's name is visible through the envelope window. I'm coming in. Victor ended the call and looked at Evelyn. I need to handle this. You're coming with me. Victor, you're coming with me, he repeated, brooking no argument. I'm not leaving you alone when someone's targeting you. Not happening. They drove to Hale Industries in silence. The building's underground parking kept them away from cameras, and Victor's private elevator took them straight to his office without encountering anyone else. His security team was waiting, a manila envelope sitting on his desk like a bomb. Victor picked it up, broke the seal, and pulled out a single photograph and a note. Evelyn watched the color drain from his face. "What is it?" she asked. He didn't answer, just handed her the photo. It was her. Taken from outside her apartment window, getting dressed. The angle suggested someone had been watching for days, maybe weeks, waiting for the perfect shot. The photo was grainy but clear enough to be invasive, violating, terrifying. The note was worse. She's vulnerable, unprotected, easy to reach. "How much is she worth to you, Victor?" "We'll be in touch." Evelyn's hand shook so badly she dropped the photo. "Someone's been watching me." "For how long? How long have they been—" "I don't know." Victor's voice was deadly calm, the kind of calm that came before violence. "But they just made the biggest mistake of their lives." He pulled out his phone, made a call. "I need a full security team at Evelyn Moore's address immediately. And I want every camera in a 3-block radius checked for footage. Someone's been surveilling her. Find them." "Victor, this is too much. I can't—" Evelyn couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't articulate the terror crawling up her spine. "You're not going back to your apartment." Victor moved to her, gripping her shoulders. "You're staying with me. 24-hour security. No one gets near you without going through me first." "They want money. Maybe we should just move—" "No." The word was absolute. "We don't negotiate with extortion. We destroy it." His eyes burned into hers. "I told you I would protect you, Evelyn. I meant it. No one touches you. No one threatens you. Not while I'm breathing." The office door opened. A woman in an expensive suit walked in, followed by 2 men in security uniforms. The woman was maybe 50, perfectly composed, with sharp eyes that took in everything. "Mr. Hale, I'm Detective Sarah Chen from the CPD's Cyber Crimes Unit. Your attorney called me." She glanced at Evelyn. "Miss Moore, I presume?" Evelyn nodded mutely. "We're going to need to ask you some questions. About the photo, about anyone who might have access to your apartment, about any unusual activity you've noticed recently." Detective Chen's voice was kind but professional. "I know this is frightening, but we're going to find whoever did this." The next 2 hours were a blur of questions and answers. Evelyn told them everything about the photo she'd sent Victor, about Marcus, about her routine, about anything that might help. Victor stayed beside her the entire time, his hand in hers, his presence the only thing keeping her from falling apart. Finally, Detective Chen closed her notebook. "We'll analyze the photo, check for digital fingerprints. Your apartment will be secured and we'll have patrol cars in the area. In the meantime, Mr. Hale's suggestion about staying somewhere else is a good one." After she left, Evelyn slumped in her chair. "This is insane. 2 days ago I was just an assistant. Now I'm—" "Mine," Victor finished. "You're mine. And someone decided that made you a target." His jaw clenched. "I should have seen this coming. Should have protected you better." "How could you have known?" "Because I know what people are capable of when they want to hurt me." He pulled her to her feet, into his arms. "This is what I was afraid of, Evelyn. This is why I wanted to keep us private. Because the moment people know I care about someone, they try to use it against me. Maybe we should—" She couldn't say it, couldn't suggest ending this when it had barely begun. "Don't." Victor's arms tightened around her. "Don't even think about walking away to keep yourself safe. I won't let you. I'm selfish and possessive, and I need you too much to do the right thing and let you go. Even if staying with you puts me in danger? Staying with me is the only thing keeping you safe." His voice was fierce. "Alone, you're vulnerable. With me, you have resources, security, protection. With me, you're untouchable." Evelyn wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that his power could shield her from whatever darkness was circling. But the photo haunted her, proof that someone had been watching, waiting, planning. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Good. Fear keeps you careful." He pulled back to look at her. "But don't let it control you. We're going to figure out who's behind this, and we're going to make sure they never threaten you again." His phone buzzed. A text from his head of security. "Found something. You need to see this." They went down to the security office, a high-tech space filled with monitors and computers. The head of security, a former military man named Marcus Rodriguez, pulled up footage on the main screen. This is from a camera across from Miss Moore's building. 3 days ago, Christmas Eve. He hit play. The footage showed a man in a dark coat standing outside Evelyn's building, looking up at her window. Even grainy and distant, his posture was clear, watching, waiting. He stayed for 20 minutes before walking away. We ran facial recognition, Marcus continued. Got a hit. His name is Thomas Brennan. He works for Whitmore and Associates. Evelyn's blood went cold. That's Marcus's firm. Victor's expression went deadly. Pull up everything we have on Marcus Chen. Employment records, financials, communications, everything. It took Marcus 10 minutes to compile the information. When it came up on the screen, the pattern was clear. Marcus had significant gambling debts, debts that had recently been paid off by a shell corporation that took 30 seconds to trace back to Victor's biggest competitor, Richard Castellan. Castellan? Victor said the name like a curse. He's been trying to undermine my acquisitions for years, never had the guts to come at me directly. So he came at me instead, Evelyn whispered. Used Marcus to, what? Get information? Access? Marcus gave him the photo. Victor's voice was ice. Had to. He's the only other person who could have known about it. You sent it to me, but Marcus was in your contacts. Easy enough to hack your phone, see the sent messages, steal the photo before you deleted it from your device. Evelyn felt sick. He sold me out for gambling debts. He sold us both out. Victor turned to Marcus. I want Marcus Chen and Richard Castellan brought in for questioning. I want every communication between them documented. And I want our legal team ready to file charges for harassment, extortion, and invasion of privacy. Victor, if we go after them legally, this becomes public. It's already public, he cut her off. The moment they sent that photo to the press, they made this public. Now we control the narrative. He took her hands. I'm not hiding you, Evelyn. I'm not pretending this didn't happen or that we're not together. I'm going to stand in front of every camera in this city and tell them exactly what happened. The woman I love was targeted by my competitor, and I'm destroying him for it. The woman you love, Evelyn repeated, still caught on those words. Yes. No hesitation. The woman I love. Who's moving into my penthouse tonight? Who's going to let me protect her while we dismantle everyone who thought they could use her against me? His eyes burned. Say yes, Evelyn. Say you trust me to handle this. She should say no. Should run from the danger, the intensity, the sheer overwhelming force of Victor Hale in protective mode. But looking at him, at the fierce devotion in his eyes, the absolute certainty that he would burn the city down before letting anyone hurt her, she couldn't. Yes, she whispered. I trust you. His kiss was hard and claiming, a brand of possession that left no doubt about who she belonged to. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark with promise. Good, because we're about to go to war, and I need you beside me. He turned to Marcus. Get me everything on Castellan. Every dirty deal, every bribed official, every skeleton in his very full closet. And get me a press conference, tomorrow morning. I want the whole city watching when I tear him apart. The next 12 hours were chaos. Victor's legal team worked through the night building their case. Detective Chen brought Marcus and Thomas Brennan in for questioning, and Evelyn found herself in Victor's penthouse, surrounded by security and luxury, and the man who'd somehow become her entire world in the span of 2 days. You should sleep, Victor said, finding her standing by the windows at 2 a.m. Tomorrow's going to be intense. I can't. She turned to him. Victor, are you sure about this? Going public, fighting Castellan, it's going to be ugly. It's already ugly. This just forces it into the light. He pulled her against him. I won't let them win, Evelyn. I won't let them make you ashamed or afraid or small. You're extraordinary, and the whole world is going to know it. I'm not extraordinary. I'm just mine. He silenced her protest with a kiss. You're mine, and that makes you untouchable. Remember that tomorrow when the cameras are flashing and the questions are flying. You're mine, and I protect what's mine. Evelyn let herself believe it, let herself lean into his strength and his certainty and the fierce protection he wrapped around her like armor. Tomorrow, they'd face the world. Tonight, she just held on to him and tried not to think about everything that could go wrong. The press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m. By 9:30, the crowd outside Hale Industries was massive. Reporters, cameras, curious onlookers, all crammed together waiting for Victor Hale to make a statement about the mysterious woman who'd captured his attention. Evelyn stood backstage with Victor, her hand trembling in his. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "I can make the statement alone, keep you out of it." "No." She squared her shoulders. "If we're doing this, we're doing it together. You said you wanted me beside you. I'm here." Pride flashed in his eyes. "That's my girl." He kissed her once, quick and hard. "Remember, you have nothing to apologize for, nothing to be ashamed of. You're brilliant and beautiful, and you're with me because I'm lucky enough to deserve you." "You have that backward." "No, I don't." He squeezed her hand. "Ready?" She nodded, and together they walked out onto the platform. The cameras exploded in a frenzy of flashes. Questions erupted from every direction, a wall of noise that would have been overwhelming if Victor's hand hadn't been steady in hers. He stepped up to the microphone, and the crowd quieted. "Good morning. I'm here to address recent reports about my personal life and to make very clear what happens when someone attempts to use the people I care about as weapons against me." His voice carried absolute authority. 2 days ago, someone hacked into private communications between myself and Evelyn Moore, my girlfriend, in an attempt to extort money and damage both our reputations. That someone was Richard Castellan, acting through intermediaries including Thomas Brennan and Marcus Chen. The crowd erupted again. Victor waited for silence. "The evidence is irrefutable and has been turned over to law enforcement. Charges are being filed for harassment, extortion, invasion of privacy, and cybercrimes. But I'm not here to discuss legal proceedings. I'm here to make something perfectly clear." He turned, pulling Evelyn forward. "This is Evelyn Moore. She's brilliant, compassionate, and the best thing that's ever happened to me. Anyone who attempts to harm her, threaten her, or use her as leverage will discover exactly how far I'm willing to go to protect the people I love. And I promise you, it's further than you want to find out." Evelyn's heart hammered as cameras focused on her face. Victor's arm came around her waist, solid and claiming, "I'm not ashamed of our relationship. I'm proud of it, proud of her. And I'm serving notice right now. Evelyn Moore is under my protection. Touch her, and you touch me. That's not a threat. It's a guarantee." He stepped back from the microphone, but before they could leave, a reporter shouted, "Miss Moore, do you have anything to say?" Evelyn froze. She hadn't planned to speak, hadn't prepared anything. But looking out at the crowd, at the cameras broadcasting this moment to the entire city, she realized she did have something to say. She stepped up to the microphone. "I made a mistake," she said clearly. "I sent a private photo to the wrong person. That photo was stolen and weaponized against me, against us, and I refuse to be ashamed of it." Her voice strengthened. "What happened to me could happen to anyone. But what happened after, that's the real story. Victor Hale could have distanced himself, protected his reputation, let me face this alone. Instead, he stood beside me, protected me, fought for me. That's the man I know. That's the man I'm proud to be with." She stepped back. Victor's eyes were blazing with something that looked like worship. Together, they walked off stage, leaving the crowd still shouting questions behind them. In the privacy of Victor's office, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her breathless. "You were perfect," he said against her mouth. "Absolutely perfect." "I was terrified." "You were brave." He pulled back, cupping her face. "You stood there and owned it, refused to be ashamed, defended me. Evelyn, you have no idea how incredible you are." Before she could respond, his phone rang. "Detective Chen." "Mr. Hale, we've made arrests. Marcus Chen, Thomas Brennan, and Richard Castellan are all in custody. We have enough evidence to make charges stick." A pause. "It's over." Victor's expression was pure satisfaction. "Thank you, Detective." He hung up and turned to Evelyn. "They're done. All of them. Castellan's facing years in prison. His company will collapse without him. And Marcus?" His smile was sharp. "Marcus is going to learn what happens when you betray someone under my protection." Evelyn should have felt relief, victory. Instead, she just felt exhausted. "Is it really over?" she asked quietly. The immediate threat? Yes, but there will be others, Evelyn. There always are. People who want to use you to get to me. Rivals who see you as my weakness. He pulled her close. That's the cost of being with me. Constant vigilance, permanent security, a life where privacy is a luxury and threats are inevitable. And if I can't handle that? His expression went carefully blank. Then I'll let you go. Give you your life back. Make sure you're safe and protected from a distance. His voice dropped. But I'm hoping you won't ask me to, because losing you would destroy me, Evelyn, and I'm selfish enough to beg you to stay anyway. She looked at him, really looked at him. At the power and the danger and the fierce devotion all wrapped up in one impossible man. A man who'd turned her worst mistake into the beginning of something extraordinary. Who'd defended her when he could have abandoned her. Who loved her enough to give her the choice to walk away. I'm not going anywhere, she said firmly. You said I'm yours. That means you're stuck with me. The relief in his eyes was answer enough. He kissed her again, slower this time, deeper, full of promise and possession, and everything they'd fought for in the past 48 hours. When they finally broke apart, Victor rested his forehead against hers. Then let's go home, he murmured. Our home. Together. And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, Evelyn believed it would be okay. Not easy, not simple, but real, and fierce, and absolutely worth fighting for. She was his, he was hers, and anyone who tried to tear them apart would learn exactly what Victor Hale had promised. He protected what was his, and he never lost. 3 weeks after the press conference, Evelyn stood in Victor's penthouse, watching the sun rise over Chicago, and tried to remember what her old life had felt like. The quiet anonymity, the careful invisibility, the version of herself who'd believed she was meant to stay small. That woman felt like a stranger now. You're up early. Victor's voice came from behind her, rough with sleep. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. Couldn't sleep? Just thinking. She leaned into his warmth, about how different everything is. Regrets? The question was casual, but she felt the tension in his body. Not even one. She turned in his arms to face him. I was just thinking that 3 weeks ago, I didn't know I could be this happy. Didn't know it was possible to feel this seen. Relief softened his expression. Good. Because I'm not giving you back. He kissed her forehead. Coffee? You're going to make me coffee? She raised an eyebrow. The man who once burned water trying to make tea? I have skills you haven't discovered yet. His smile was wicked. Besides, I hired a morning chef. She starts in 20 minutes. I'm just keeping you distracted until then. Evelyn laughed, the sound still surprising her with its ease. A month ago, laughter had felt foreign. Now it came naturally, constantly, pulled out of her by Victor's dry humor and unexpected sweetness. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it and her smile faded. Victor's expression sharpened instantly. What is it? My mother's care facility. They want me to come in today. Something about her condition changing. Evelyn's hands trembled as she picked up the phone. They wouldn't say more over text. I'm coming with you. It wasn't a question. Victor, you have meetings. I'll reschedule them. He was already moving toward the bedroom. Give me 10 minutes to get ready. 45 minutes later, they pulled up to Lakeside Memory Care, the facility where Evelyn's mother had lived for the past year. It was nice as these places went. Clean, well-staffed, expensive enough that Evelyn's entire salary barely covered it. She'd never told Victor exactly how much of her income disappeared into her mother's care, but she suspected he knew anyway. He knew everything. Dr. Patricia Howard met them in the lobby, her expression professionally sympathetic in a way that made Evelyn's stomach drop. Miss Moore, thank you for coming so quickly. Dr. Howard's gaze flicked to Victor. And you are? Victor Hale, Evelyn's partner. His hand found Evelyn's, steady and sure. Whatever you need to tell her, you can say in front of me. Dr. Howard nodded and led them to a small consultation room. Through the window, Evelyn could see the common area where residents sat in various states of awareness, some watching television, others staring at nothing. Your mother had an episode last night, Dr. Howard began. She became agitated, didn't recognize the staff, Thought she was back in her childhood home. It took several hours to calm her down. She paused. Miss Moore, her decline is accelerating. The episodes are becoming more frequent and more severe. We're doing everything we can, but I need you to understand that we're entering the final stages of her disease. The words hit Evelyn like physical blows. Final stages. She'd known this was coming, had known since the diagnosis 5 years ago that this was inevitable. But knowing and hearing it said out loud were two different things. How long? Her voice came out barely above a whisper. That's impossible to predict with certainty. Weeks, possibly months. But I wanted to prepare you. Dr. Howard's expression gentled. And to ask if you've considered what kind of care you want for her as she continues to decline. Some families prefer comfort measures only at this stage. No. The word came out sharp. She gets every treatment available, every intervention. I don't care about the cost. Evelyn, Dr. Howard started. I said I don't care about the cost. Evelyn stood abruptly. Can I see her? Of course, she's in her room, but I should warn you she may not recognize you today. Evelyn walked down the corridor on legs that felt like water, Victor's presence beside her the only thing keeping her upright. When they reached her mother's room, she paused outside the door, gathering courage. You don't have to go in if you're not ready, Victor said quietly. I'm never ready. But she pushed the door open anyway. Her mother sat in a chair by the window, staring out at the gardens. She looked smaller than Evelyn remembered, frailer, like she was already disappearing even though her body remained. Mom? Evelyn approached slowly. It's me. It's Evelyn. Her mother turned, and for a moment Evelyn saw recognition flicker in her eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by polite confusion. I'm sorry, dear. Do I know you? The words were a knife to the heart. Evelyn had heard them before, but they never got easier. She forced a smile. I'm Evelyn, your daughter. My daughter? Her mother's brow furrowed. No, my daughter is just a little girl. She's 7 years old. She loves butterflies. Her expression went distant. Where is she? I need to pick her up from school. Mom, I'm right here. I'm grown up now. I'm 28. Evelyn knelt beside the chair, taking her mother's hand. I'm here. You don't need to worry about picking me up. But her mother had already forgotten the question, her attention drifting back to the window. Evelyn stayed there for 20 minutes, talking to someone who couldn't hear her, holding a hand that didn't squeeze back, watching the woman who'd raised her slip further away. Finally, Victor touched her shoulder gently. Evelyn, we should go. She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She kissed her mother's forehead. The woman didn't react, and let Victor lead her out of the room. They made it to the car before Evelyn broke. The sobs came hard and fast, years of grief she'd been holding back finally forcing their way out. Victor pulled her into his arms, let her cry against his chest, said nothing because there was nothing to say that would make this better. I'm losing her, Evelyn choked out between sobs. She's right there, and I'm still losing her, and I can't stop it. I can't fix it. I can't. I know. Victor's voice was rough. I know, love. I'm so sorry. She doesn't even know who I am anymore. I'm her daughter, and she looks at me like I'm a stranger. Evelyn pulled back, wiping furiously at her tears. How is that fair? How is it fair that she has to suffer like this? That I have to watch her disappear piece by piece? It's not fair. None of it is fair. Victor cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. But you're not alone in this, Evelyn. Not anymore. Whatever comes next, we face it together. You don't have to. Yes, I do. His thumb wiped away a tear. You're mine. That means your pain is my pain. Your grief is my grief. I'm not going anywhere. Something in Evelyn cracked open at his words. She'd been carrying this burden alone for so long, convinced she had to be strong enough to handle it by herself. But Victor was offering to share the weight, and she was tired enough to let him. Take me home, she whispered. They drove back to the penthouse in silence, Victor's hand never leaving hers. When they arrived, he guided her to the couch, wrapped her in a blanket, and held her while she cried herself out. Eventually, the tears stopped. Evelyn sat in the wreckage of her composure, exhausted and hollow, and somehow still breathing. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? for not trying to fix it, for just being here. She looked up at him. Marcus used to tell me I was too negative when I talked about my mom, that I needed to focus on the positive. It made me feel like I wasn't allowed to be sad. Victor's jaw tightened. Marcus was an idiot. You're allowed to feel everything you're feeling. Sadness, anger, grief. It's all valid, all real, and you never have to pretend otherwise, not with me. Evelyn leaned her head against his shoulder. I don't know what I did to deserve you. You were yourself. That was enough. He kissed the top of her head. Are you hungry? The chef made breakfast before we left. I don't think I can eat. Try anyway. For me. It was the gentlest command, impossible to refuse. They moved to the kitchen where an elaborate breakfast spread waited. Evelyn managed half a piece of toast and some coffee before her phone buzzed again. This time it was Sarah, her best friend. Sarah, I know you're going through hell right now, but you need to see this. Check the news. Evelyn's stomach dropped. She pulled up a news site on her phone, and the headline made her blood run cold. Victor Hale's dark past. New allegations surface. Below it, a photo of Victor from years ago, younger and harder looking, standing beside a man Evelyn didn't recognize. The article claimed Victor had been involved in illegal business practices, bribery, possibly worse. It cited anonymous sources and vague accusations, but was written with enough authority to sound credible. Victor. She turned the phone toward him. His expression went carefully blank as he read. When he finished, he set the phone down with deliberate calm. It's a hit piece. Castellan's people trying to damage me before the trial. His voice was controlled, too controlled. None of it's true. Then we'll sue them for libel. Evelyn. He cut her off gently. Some of it is true. The words landed like stones. Evelyn stared at him, trying to process. What? Victor stood, moving to the window, his back to her. The early years after my mother died, when I was trying to save my father's business, I did things I'm not proud of. Paid bribes to keep contracts. Made deals with people I shouldn't have trusted. I was desperate and angry and 20 years old, and I made choices that kept us afloat but cost me pieces of my soul. Evelyn's mind raced. How bad? Bad enough that if anyone had looked closely at the time, I could have faced charges. I was careful, covered my tracks, used intermediaries, made sure nothing could be traced directly back to me. But the shadow of it is still there if people dig deep enough. He turned to face her, and the vulnerability in his expression broke her heart. I'm not the man I was then, Evelyn. I've spent 15 years building something legitimate, something clean. But I can't erase my past, and now someone's weaponizing it against me. Against us, Evelyn corrected. They're doing this because of me. Because you went public about our relationship and destroyed Castellan. This is retaliation. This is war. Victor's voice went hard. And they just made a critical mistake. They think exposing my past will make you leave. They think you'll be horrified and run. He crossed to her, kneeling so they were eye level. Will you? Evelyn looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who'd held her while she cried, who'd faced down cameras and threats to protect her, who'd been honest about his darkest moments even knowing she might walk away. No, she said firmly. I'm not going anywhere. Relief flooded his features. Even knowing what I've done? You were a kid trying to survive. You made choices you regret. That doesn't define who you are now. She took his face in her hands. I know who you are, Victor. I've seen you, the real you, and I love what I see. It was the first time she'd said the words. They hung in the air between them, huge and terrifying and absolutely true. Victor's eyes went dark with emotion. Say it again. I love you. Stronger this time, more certain. I love you, and I'm not leaving, and whoever's trying to tear us apart can go to hell. He kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. I love you too, he said roughly. More than I thought I could love anything. You're everything, Evelyn. Everything. The moment was shattered by his phone ringing. Victor answered, his expression going from soft to sharp in seconds. When? A pause. How many outlets? Another pause, longer this time. Handle it. I'll be there in an hour. He hung up and turned to Evelyn. The story's spreading. 3 major news outlets have picked it up, and more are coming. My PR team wants me to make a statement. Then we make one. Evelyn stood. Together, just like last time. Evelyn, you don't have to. Yes, I do. She cut him off. You stood beside me when my life exploded. Now I stand beside you. That's what partners do. Pride blazed in his eyes. You're sure? Completely. She squeezed his hand. Let's go remind the world that Victor Hale doesn't break, and neither do the people who love him. They arrived at Hale Industries to chaos. Reporters packed the lobby, security struggling to keep them back. Victor's PR team had set up another press conference, this time in the building's main atrium, a strategic choice that forced everyone onto Victor's territory. The narrative is getting away from us, James Chen, Victor's head of PR, said as they prepared backstage. They're painting you as a criminal who's been hiding behind legitimacy for years. We need to get ahead of this fast. Then let's get ahead of it. Victor's voice was steel. I'll address the allegations directly. Confirm what's true, refute what's false, and make it clear that 15-year-old mistakes don't define who I am today. That's a risk, James warned. Admitting to any wrongdoing opens you up to putts. I don't care. Victor's gaze found Evelyn's. I'm done hiding, done pretending I've always been perfect. I made mistakes. I own them. And I'm not ashamed of who I've become in spite of them. James looked like he wanted to argue, but knew better. Fine. But keep it brief. Don't give them ammunition. 5 minutes later, Victor walked out onto the platform, Evelyn beside him. The crowd exploded with questions, cameras flashing like lightning. Victor stepped up to the microphone, and the room fell silent. I'm here to address allegations about my past business practices. Some of what you've read is true. Some is exaggeration. All of it is being used as a weapon by people who want to see me destroyed. His voice carried absolute authority. When I was 20 years old, I inherited a failing company and a father too broken by grief to save it. I was desperate, angry, and willing to do whatever it took to survive. That included making deals with questionable people and paying bribes to keep contracts that should have been won on merit alone. The crowd erupted. Victor waited for silence. I'm not proud of those choices. But I'm also not going to pretend they didn't happen or that I didn't make them deliberately. I did what I thought was necessary at the time. Since then, I've spent 15 years building a legitimate empire, operating within the law, and making amends where possible for the damage I caused. He paused. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm stating facts. And the fact is this. Someone is using my past to try to hurt the woman I love. That's what this is really about. Not justice, not accountability. Revenge. He turned, pulling Evelyn forward. This is Evelyn Moore. She knows everything about my past. She knows what I've done, the mistakes I've made, the choices I regret, and she loves me anyway. Not because she's naive or desperate, but because she sees who I am now, not just who I was then. She sees the man I've fought to become. Evelyn's heart pounded as cameras focused on her face. Victor's hand tightened around hers. So to everyone trying to use my past against me, you're wasting your time. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not ashamed. I'm a man who made mistakes and learned from them. A man who's built something worth protecting. And a man who will burn down anyone who threatens the people I love. His smile was sharp and dangerous. Try me. See what happens. He stepped back from the microphone. A reporter shouted, Miss Moore, are you concerned about Victor's past? Evelyn hadn't planned to speak again, but looking at the cameras, at the reporters hungry for scandal, she realized she had to. She stepped up to the microphone. I'm concerned about a lot of things, she said clearly. I'm concerned about my mother's declining health. I'm concerned about the fact that someone hacked my private photos and used them as blackmail. I'm concerned that we live in a world where a 20-year-old's desperate choices define him forever, while the men trying to destroy him get away with crimes they're committing right now. Her voice strengthened. What I'm not concerned about is Victor Hale's character. I know exactly who he is. He's a man who's faced his past, owned his mistakes, and built something extraordinary from the ashes. He's a man who protects the people he loves with everything he has. And he's the man I choose, past and all. She stepped back. Victor's eyes blazed with something fierce and proud. They walked off stage together, leaving the crowd shouting questions behind them. In the privacy of Victor's office, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her breathless. "You didn't have to do that," he said against her mouth. "Yes, I did." She pulled back to look at him. "You've defended me twice now. It was my turn." "You're incredible." His hands framed her face. "Absolutely incredible." Before she could respond, Detective Chen called. Victor put her on speaker. "Mr. Hale, I wanted to update you. We've traced the leak to one of Castellan's associates, a journalist he's been paying to dig up dirt on you for months. We have documentation of the payments and communications. It's definitive proof of a coordinated attack." "Will it hold up in court?" Victor's voice was sharp. "Absolutely. Between this and the extortion charges, Castellan's looking at serious time. His legal team is already reaching out about a plea deal." Victor's smile was cold. "Tell them no deals. He goes to trial. I want every detail of what he's done exposed in open court." "That's what I thought you'd say." Detective Chen sounded satisfied. "We'll keep you updated." After she hung up, Evelyn studied Victor's expression. "You really want to drag this out? Make it a public spectacle?" "I want everyone to see what happens when someone comes after what's mine." His eyes met hers. "I want it on record that trying to hurt you was the worst mistake of Castellan's life, so that the next person who thinks about it knows exactly what they're facing. You're terrifying when you're protective." "Good." He pulled her closer. "You should know what you're getting into. I'm possessive, vengeful, and completely ruthless when it comes to keeping you safe. If that scares you—" "It doesn't," Evelyn cut him off. "It should, maybe, but it doesn't, because I know you'd never turn that side of yourself on me. You'd burn the world down before you'd hurt me. In a heartbeat." No hesitation. "You're the only thing that matters, Evelyn. Everything else is just noise." Her phone buzzed. This time, it was the care facility. "Dr. Howard, your mother is asking for you. She's having a clear moment. If you can come now, I'd recommend it." Evelyn's breath caught. Clear moments were rare and getting rarer. She looked at Victor. "Go," he said immediately. "I'll drive you." They made it to Lakeside in record time. Dr. Howard met them at the door, her expression cautiously hopeful. "She woke up an hour ago asking for you by name. She's lucid, aware. I don't know how long it will last, so—" Evelyn was already moving, half running down the corridor to her mother's room. She pushed the door open and froze. Her mother sat up in bed, looking more alert than she had in months. When she saw Evelyn, her face lit up with recognition, real recognition. "Evelyn, my sweet girl." Her voice was weak but clear. "Come here." Evelyn crossed the room on shaking legs and took her mother's hand. It squeezed back this time, strong and sure. "Mom, you know me." "Of course I know you. You're my daughter, my beautiful, brilliant daughter." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I know I haven't been myself. I know I've forgotten things, said things that hurt you, but I'm here right now and I need you to listen." "I'm listening," Evelyn's voice broke. "You've been taking care of me for so long, putting your life on hold, spending all your money, sacrificing everything." Her mother's grip tightened. "I need you to stop." "Mom, I can't." "Yes, you can. And you will." Her mother's voice was firm, the voice Evelyn remembered from childhood, when she'd needed discipline or truth. "I'm dying, Evelyn. We both know it. And I don't want my last gift to you to be guilt. I want it to be freedom." Tears spilled down Evelyn's cheeks. "I can't just give up on you." "You're not giving up. You're letting go." Her mother reached up, wiping away Evelyn's tears. "I've had a good life. I raised an incredible daughter. I got to see you become strong and brave and so much better than I ever was. That's enough. That's more than enough." "It's not enough for me." Evelyn's voice was raw. "I'm not ready to lose you." "I know, sweetheart, but you're going to have to be." Her mother's gaze shifted to where Victor stood in the doorway, giving them privacy but close enough to be there if needed. "Is that him? The man I've been hearing about on the news?" Evelyn nodded. "That's Victor." "Bring him here." Evelyn gestured for Victor to come closer. He approached cautiously, like he wasn't sure he belonged in this moment. "Mr. Hale?" Evelyn's mother studied him with sharp eyes. You love my daughter? More than anything. Victor's voice was steady. She's everything to me. Good. Then I have something to say to you. She paused, gathering strength. Evelyn has spent the last 5 years watching me disappear. She's faced loss and grief and loneliness, and it's made her believe she doesn't deserve happiness, that she's supposed to carry burdens alone. Her grip on Evelyn's hand tightened. I need you to prove her wrong. I need you to show her that she deserves to be loved, protected, cherished, that she deserves a life that's about more than just surviving. I will. Victor's voice was thick with emotion. I promise you, I will. And Evelyn, her mother turned back to her. I need you to let him. Stop punishing yourself for my illness. Stop believing you have to earn love by being perfect or strong or invisible. You're allowed to be happy, sweetheart. You're allowed to have a life. Please, please let yourself have it. Evelyn couldn't speak past the tears. She just nodded, clinging to her mother's hand like it was the only solid thing in the world. They stayed like that for 20 minutes, talking about everything and nothing, making the most of clarity they all knew wouldn't last. When her mother's eyes started to drift, when awareness began to slip away again, Evelyn kissed her forehead and whispered, I love you, Mom. Thank you for everything. I love you too, baby. Now go live your life, make it extraordinary. Those were the last clear words her mother spoke. By the time they left the facility, she'd already forgotten the conversation, forgotten Evelyn's name, forgotten everything except the vague sense that someone she loved had been there. In the car, Evelyn broke down again. But this time the grief felt different. Still heavy, still painful, but somehow lighter too. Like her mother had given her permission to let go of the guilt she'd been carrying. She's right, you know, Victor said quietly as he drove. You do deserve happiness. You deserve everything good this world has to offer. I'm starting to believe that. Evelyn wiped her eyes. Because of you. You make me believe I'm worth choosing. You are. He brought her hand to his lips. Every single day, you're worth choosing. They drove back to the penthouse as the sun set over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. When they arrived, Victor led her to the rooftop terrace, a space she hadn't even known existed. The view was breathtaking, the entire city spread out below them, lights beginning to twinkle as darkness fell. I come up here when I need to think, Victor said, pulling her against his side. When everything gets too loud and I need perspective. It's beautiful. It is. But he was looking at her, not the view. Evelyn, I need to ask you something. She turned to face him, and her breath caught at the intensity in his expression. These past few weeks have been chaos. Threats, scandals, revelations, grief. We've been through more in a month than most people face in years. And through all of it, you've been extraordinary, brave and fierce, and absolutely unbreakable. He took both her hands in his. I know it's fast, I know it's reckless, but I also know what I want, and I've never been more certain of anything in my life. He pulled a small box from his pocket, and Evelyn's heart stopped. I'm not asking you to marry me, he said quickly. Not yet. Not until you're ready, but I'm asking you to move in with me, officially, not because it's convenient or because of security, because I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. Because I want this to be our home, not just mine. Because I love you and I want to build a life with you. Evelyn stared at the box in his hand. Inside was a key, simple, elegant, symbolic. Say yes, Evelyn. Say you'll build this life with me. She thought about her mother's words, about permission to be happy, about deserving love and partnership in a future that wasn't defined by loss. She thought about the man in front of her, who'd seen her at her worst and loved her anyway, who'd fought for her, protected her, stood beside her through every nightmare. And she thought about the woman she was becoming, not invisible, not small, not afraid to take up space in the world. Yes, she said, voice strong and clear. Yes, I'll build this life with you. Victor's smile was brilliant. He pulled her into his arms and kissed her as the city lights sparkled below them like stars. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Evelyn felt completely, utterly home. Moving into Victor's penthouse felt like stepping into a different version of her life. one where she was allowed to take up space and be seen. Evelyn spent the next week transferring her belongings from her modest apartment. Each box she unpacked another piece of herself she was willing to share with him. Victor helped, despite having staff who could have done it all, insisting he wanted to know where everything went, wanted to learn the small details that made up her daily existence. "Why do you have 3 different coffee mugs that all say the same thing?" he asked, holding up a collection of ceramic cups emblazoned with variations of "World's Best Daughter." "My mom gave me one every birthday from the time I was 16 until she got sick." Evelyn took them from him carefully. "I know it's silly to keep all of them, but it's not silly." Victor set them in the cabinet himself, arranging them so they'd be easy to reach. "They matter to you. That makes them important." It was these small moments that convinced Evelyn she'd made the right choice. The way Victor learned how she took her coffee and had it ready before she woke. The way he'd rearranged his schedule so he could drive her to visit her mother twice a week. The way he never made her feel like her grief or her past or her ordinary life before him was something to be ashamed of. 2 weeks after she moved in, the trial began. Richard Castellan sat in the defendant's chair looking smaller than his reputation suggested, flanked by lawyers who clearly knew they were fighting a losing battle. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Documented payments to Marcus Chen, email chains discussing the blackmail scheme, recorded conversations between Castellan and the journalist he'd hired to smear Victor's reputation. Evelyn sat in the gallery beside Victor, watching justice unfold in real time. Marcus was testifying, his voice shaking as he detailed how Castellan had approached him with an offer to clear his gambling debts in exchange for information about Victor Hale. "He knew I was dating Victor's assistant," Marcus said, not meeting Evelyn's eyes. "Said it was an opportunity to get close to Hale, find weaknesses. When Evelyn sent me that photo by mistake..." He stopped, swallowing hard. "Castellan said it was perfect, that we could use it to force Hale's hand, make him choose between his reputation and his relationship." "And you agreed?" the prosecutor asked. "I was desperate. I owed money to people who don't accept excuses. Castellan offered me a way out." Marcus finally looked at Evelyn, and she saw genuine remorse in his expression. "I'm sorry, Evelyn. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am sorry. You deserved better than what I did to you." Evelyn felt Victor's hand tighten around hers. She squeezed back, silently telling him she was okay. Because she was. Marcus's betrayal had hurt, but it had also led her here. To a man who actually valued her. To a life that felt real instead of like something she was watching from outside. "Your Honor, I'd like to call Evelyn Moore to the stand," the prosecutor said. Evelyn's heart jumped. She'd known this was coming but hadn't quite prepared herself for it. Victor leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. "You don't have to do this. We have enough evidence without your testimony." "I want to." She stood, smoothing down her dress. "I want to tell my side." The walk to the witness stand felt endless. Every eye in the courtroom tracked her movement, but she kept her gaze forward, focused on the prosecutor waiting for her. After she was sworn in, the questions began. "Miss Moore, can you describe your relationship with the defendant, Richard Castellan?" "I didn't have one. I'd never met him before this trial. Never even heard his name until Detective Chen told us he was behind the blackmail." "But you are familiar with his connection to Victor Hale?" "I know they're business competitors, that Mr. Castellan has tried to undermine Victor's acquisitions for years." Evelyn kept her voice steady. "I know he saw me as a vulnerability he could exploit." "Let's talk about the photo that was used as blackmail. Can you tell the court how that photo came to exist?" Evelyn took a breath, acutely aware of the cameras, the reporters, the strangers hearing the most humiliating moment of her life dissected in legal terms. But she'd stood in front of cameras before and owned her story. She could do it again. "I took the photo on Christmas Eve. I just discovered my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend, Marcus Chen, cheating on me. I was angry and hurt, and I wanted him to see what he'd lost. So I took a photo in lingerie and sent it to him." She paused. "Except I didn't send it to him. I sent it to Victor Hale by mistake." "And what was Mr. Hale's response?" "He asked me to come to his office. I thought I was going to be fired, but instead he told me he cared about me, that he'd noticed me for months, that he wanted to see where things between us could go. Despite the formal setting, Evelyn couldn't help but smile at the memory. He turned the worst mistake of my life into the beginning of something extraordinary. Objection, Castellan's lawyer stood. Relevance? I'm establishing the nature of Miss Moore's relationship with Mr. Hale, Your Honor. It goes to motive. Overruled. Continue. The prosecutor nodded. Miss Moore, when did you first learn that your photo had been stolen and was being used for blackmail? December 27th. We received threatening messages and a package containing surveillance photos of me taken from outside my apartment. Someone had been watching me for weeks, possibly longer. Evelyn's voice hardened. The note said I was vulnerable, unprotected, easy to reach. It asked how much I was worth to Victor. And how did that make you feel? Terrified. Violated. Angry. She looked directly at Castellan. Someone had invaded my privacy, stolen intimate photos, and was using them to hurt the man I loved. They'd turned me into a weapon against him. What happened next? Victor refused to negotiate. He went to the police, hired security, and made it clear publicly that anyone who threatened me would face consequences. He protected me when he could have cut me loose to save his reputation. Evelyn's gaze found Victor in the gallery. He chose me. Every single time, he chose me. The prosecutor smiled. No further questions. Castellan's lawyer approached for cross-examination, his expression calculating. Miss Moore, isn't it true that you benefited significantly from this so-called blackmail? You went from being an assistant making a modest salary to living in a penthouse with one of the wealthiest men in Chicago. Objection, the prosecutor stood. Counsel is implying... I'll allow it, the judge said, but tread carefully, counselor. Evelyn met the lawyer's eyes directly. I didn't benefit from being blackmailed. I benefited from being with someone who actually values me. There's a difference. But you must admit the timing is convenient. An accidentally sent photo leads to a relationship with your billionaire boss. The photo was sent before the blackmail. Evelyn cut him off. Victor and I were already together when your client decided to exploit that. And even if we weren't, what happened to me was still a crime. My privacy was violated. My safety was threatened. No amount of money or relationship status changes that. The lawyer's expression soured. No further questions. Evelyn stepped down from the stand, her legs shaking slightly with adrenaline. Victor met her at the gate, pulling her against his side as they returned to their seats. You were perfect, he murmured. Absolutely perfect. The trial continued for 3 more days. Witness after witness testified to Castellan's scheme, each piece of evidence building an insurmountable case. Thomas Brennan detailed how he'd been hired to surveil Evelyn. The journalist explained how Castellan had paid him to dig up dirt on Victor's past. Financial records showed money trails that couldn't be explained away. When the jury returned with their verdict, it took them less than 2 hours of deliberation. On the count of extortion, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of invasion of privacy, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of conspiracy to commit blackmail, we find the defendant guilty. The list went on. Guilty on every count. Castellan's face went ashen as the judge read the sentence. 12 years in federal prison, substantial fines, and complete disgorgement of assets obtained through illegal means. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed them. Victor made a brief statement, his arm around Evelyn's waist. Justice was served today. Richard Castellan attempted to destroy my relationship and harm the woman I love. Instead, he destroyed himself. Let this be a lesson to anyone else who thinks threatening the people I care about is a viable strategy. His smile was sharp. It's not. They drove back to the penthouse in satisfied silence. When they arrived, Victor pulled Evelyn into his arms and just held her, his face buried in her hair. It's over, he said quietly. It's finally over. I know. Evelyn pulled back to look at him. We can move forward now. Actually build the life we want instead of constantly defending it. About that. Victor's expression shifted, becoming almost nervous, an emotion she rarely saw on him. I have something I need to tell you. Evelyn's stomach flipped. What is it? Your mother's care facility contacted me 3 weeks ago. Dr. Howard said the costs were becoming unsustainable, that you were draining your savings to keep your mother in the best possible care. He paused. I paid off the remaining balance, set up a trust to cover all future expenses for as long as she needs care. Evelyn stared at him. You what? I know you're independent. I know you want to handle things yourself. But Evelyn, you were drowning trying to pay for her care on your salary, and I have resources that make those costs negligible. His hands cupped her face. Let me do this. Let me take this burden off your shoulders so you can just be her daughter, not her financial lifeline. Tears spilled down Evelyn's cheeks. Victor, that's too much. It's not enough. Nothing I do will ever be enough to repay what you've given me. His thumbs wiped away her tears. You brought light into my life, Evelyn. You made me remember what it feels like to care about something beyond business and power. This is the least I can do. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. Just let me love you. Let me take care of you the way you take care of everyone else. He kissed her softly. You're not alone anymore. You don't have to carry everything by yourself. Evelyn wrapped her arms around him and held on tight, letting herself feel the relief of shared burdens, of partnership, of being loved thoroughly and completely. That night, they had dinner on the rooftop terrace, the city lights spread out below them like offerings. Victor had arranged for his chef to prepare all of Evelyn's favorite foods, and they ate slowly, savoring both the meal and the peace of knowing the threat was finally gone. I've been thinking, Victor said as they finished dessert, about what comes next. What do you mean? I mean, we've been in crisis mode since the day you sent that photo, fighting threats, handling scandals, surviving chaos, but now we have the chance to actually live. He reached across the table, taking her hand. I want to take you somewhere, away from Chicago, away from cameras and reporters and everything that's been weighing us down. Just you and me. Somewhere beautiful for as long as you want. Evelyn's heart swelled. Like a vacation? Like a honeymoon, except we're not married yet. His smile was soft. Call it a preview. A chance to be together without all the noise. Where would we go? Anywhere you want. Paris, Bali, the Maldives, name it, and we're there. He squeezed her hand. I've spent 15 years building an empire. I think I've earned the right to actually enjoy it with the person who makes it all worthwhile. Italy, Evelyn said without hesitation. I've always wanted to see the Amalfi Coast. My mom used to tell me stories about visiting there when she was young, before she had me. She said it was the most beautiful place she'd ever seen. Then Italy it is. Victor was already pulling out his phone. We'll leave next week. Stay as long as you want. I'll have my assistant handle everything. What about work? Your meetings, my job? Evelyn, you don't have a job anymore. Remember? I transferred you to a different department so we could be together without ethical conflicts. He grinned. Except you never actually started in that role because we've been dealing with trials and blackmail. So technically, you're unemployed. I'm what? Evelyn's eyes went wide. Relax. You're still on payroll. I'm not that cruel. Victor's expression turned serious. But I've been thinking about what you actually want to do. You took the assistant position because you needed stable income to support your mother. But is that what you want? To spend your life managing someone else's calendar? Evelyn had never let herself think about it. Dreams felt like luxuries she couldn't afford when survival was the priority. But Victor was offering her the chance to actually consider what she wanted from life. I don't know, she admitted. I've never had the space to figure it out. Then take the space. Take all the time you need. He stood, pulling her to her feet. We'll go to Italy. We'll breathe, and you'll figure out what makes you happy beyond just surviving. And whatever that is, I'll support it. Whether it's going back to school, starting a business, becoming a full-time advocate for Alzheimer's research, anything. You'd really do that? Support me pursuing something completely different? Evelyn, I'd support you pursuing professional dragon slaying if that's what made you happy. His smile was tender. I don't need you to be anything other than yourself. I just need you to be happy. She kissed him then, pouring every ounce of love and gratitude into it. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, she rested her forehead against his. How did I get so lucky? She whispered. That's my line. Victor pulled her closer. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Evelyn Moore. Every day with you is a gift. The week before they left for Italy passed in a blur of preparation. Evelyn visited her mother every day, telling her about the trip, even though most days her mother didn't seem to understand. But on one visit, her mother had a brief moment of clarity. "You're going to Italy?" Her mother's eyes focused, recognition flickering. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. You deserve to see beautiful things." "I wish you could come with me," Evelyn said, squeezing her mother's hand. "I've already been. I've seen it." Her mother smiled softly. "Now it's your turn. Go live, Evelyn. Stop spending all your time in this depressing place watching me fade away. Go live the life I always wanted for you." "I love you, Mom." "I love you too, baby. Now go. Be happy. That's all I've ever wanted for you." Those words echoed in Evelyn's mind as she and Victor boarded his private jet a few days later. She'd never been on a private plane before, had barely traveled at all beyond a few childhood road trips. The luxury was almost overwhelming, but Victor made it feel normal, natural, like she belonged in this world of leather seats and champagne and flight attendants who knew their names. "Nervous?" he asked as they took off, Chicago disappearing beneath them. "A little. I've never been out of the country before." "Then I'm glad I get to be with you for your first time." He lifted her hand to his lips. "I'm going to spoil you thoroughly, you know. Fancy hotels, expensive restaurants, everything you've ever wanted." "I just want you," Evelyn said honestly. "The rest is just scenery." Victor's expression went soft. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "Make me feel like the luckiest man alive with just a few words." He pulled her close, tucking her against his side. "Sleep. It's a long flight, and when we land, I want you well rested for all the spoiling I have planned." Evelyn dozed against him, lulled by the steady rhythm of his heartbeat and the hum of the engines. When she woke, they were descending into Naples, the Italian coast spreading out below them in a riot of blues and greens and ancient stone. The next 2 weeks were pure magic. They stayed in a villa carved into the cliffs above Positano, with views of the Mediterranean that took Evelyn's breath away every morning. They spent their days exploring tiny villages, eating fresh pasta and drinking wine on terraces that overlooked the sea, wandering through markets where vendors called out in rapid Italian and pressed samples into their hands. Victor was different here, away from the demands of his empire. He laughed more, relaxed more, let himself be just a man in love instead of a CEO with the weight of a company on his shoulders. He bought Evelyn ridiculous souvenirs and took terrible photos and got them hopelessly lost on winding coastal roads. And through it all, he smiled like he'd never been happier. One evening, they sat on their villa's terrace watching the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. Evelyn leaned against Victor, his arms around her waist, and felt something close to perfect peace. "I could stay here forever," she said softly. "So could I." Victor's voice was warm. "But we have a life waiting for us back home. Responsibilities, opportunities, all the things we've been building." "I know. I just don't want this to end." "It doesn't have to." He turned her to face him, his expression serious. "Evelyn, these past 2 weeks, being with you, just being us, it's shown me what I want for the rest of my life. Not just stolen moments between crises, real time, real partnership, real everything." Her heart started pounding. "Victor, wait, let me say this." He took both her hands. "I know I said I wouldn't ask you to marry me until you were ready, but I need you to know that I am ready. I've been ready since the moment you walked into my office on Christmas Eve and trusted me with your vulnerability. I'm ready to spend the rest of my life with you, Evelyn, to build a family, a home, a future that's about more than just surviving." Tears spilled down Evelyn's cheeks. "I'm ready too." "You are." Hope blazed in his eyes. "Yes, I love you, Victor. I want everything with you. Marriage, family, all of it." She laughed through her tears. "Ask me, please ask me." Victor dropped to one knee right there on the terrace, the setting sun haloing him in gold. From his pocket, he pulled out a ring, a simple platinum band with a single perfect diamond that caught the light and threw rainbows. "Evelyn Moore, you are the bravest, kindest, most extraordinary person I've ever known. You took my lonely, carefully controlled life and filled it with laughter and light and love I didn't know I was capable of feeling. I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my life. I want to build something beautiful together. I want to be yours, completely and forever." His voice roughened with emotion. "Will you marry me?" "Yes." The word came out as a sob. Yes, yes, 1,000 times, yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it was always meant to be there. And then he was standing, lifting her into his arms, spinning her around while she laughed and cried and clung to him. When he finally set her down, he kissed her with a thoroughness that left no doubt about his intentions for the rest of the evening. But first, he pulled out his phone. "I need to make a call," he said, grinning at her confused expression. "Now? You just proposed and you want to trust me." He dialed, put the phone on speaker. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Sarah, it's Victor Hale." There was a pause. "Did something happen to Evelyn?" "Yes. She just agreed to marry me." Sarah's scream was so loud they both had to hold the phone away from their ears. Through the squealing and excited chatter, Evelyn heard her best friend's joy, and it made everything feel even more real. "Put her on," Sarah demanded. Evelyn took the phone, laughing. "Hi. You're engaged to Victor Hale? The Victor Hale?" "I'm engaged to my Victor," Evelyn corrected. "Who happens to be Victor Hale, yes." "I need details. All of them. Immediately. What does the ring look like? How did he propose? Did you cry? Of course you cried. You cry at commercials. Sarah, I'll tell you everything when we get back. I promise. But right now, I just want to enjoy this moment." "Fine. But I'm throwing you the most ridiculous engagement party Chicago has ever seen. I don't care if Victor's fancy friends judge my Pinterest decorations. This is happening." Evelyn laughed, her heart so full it hurt. "I love you." "Love you too, babe. Now go celebrate with your fiancé. Use protection." "Sarah?" "What? You're not married yet. Be responsible." Victor took the phone back. "Thank you, Sarah, for being such a good friend to her." "You hurt her, and I'll destroy you, billionaire or not," Sarah said cheerfully. "Congratulations, Victor. Take care of my girl." "Always." He hung up and pulled Evelyn back into his arms. "Where were we?" "I think you were about to carry me inside and celebrate properly." "Good memory." He swept her up effortlessly, carrying her toward the bedroom. "I love you, Evelyn Hale." "I'm not Evelyn Hale yet." "Close enough." He set her down beside the bed, his eyes dark with promise. "And when you are, I'm going to spend every day for the rest of our lives proving you made the right choice." "I already know I did." She pulled him down to her, kissing him with all the love and certainty and joy flooding through her. "You're the best choice I ever made, Victor. The best mistake that turned into the best everything." He made love to her slowly, tenderly, like they had all the time in the world, and afterward they lay tangled together watching moonlight dance on the Mediterranean, talking about their future in soft voices that held nothing but promise. "I want 3 children," Victor said, trailing his fingers up and down her spine. "Maybe 4. That's ambitious." "I'm an ambitious man." He kissed her shoulder. "But I'll settle for however many you want, even if it's none. As long as I have you, I have everything." "I want them too," Evelyn admitted. "Want to give them the stable, loving home I didn't always have. Want to watch you be a father. Want to build something that's ours." "We will." His arms tightened around her. "We'll build something extraordinary, Evelyn. I promise you that." She believed him, believed in them, believed that the photo she'd sent in a moment of heartbreak had led her exactly where she was meant to be, in the arms of a man who loved her fiercely, chose her daily, and would move heaven and earth to keep her safe and happy. They stayed in Italy another week, existing in their perfect bubble of engagement bliss. But eventually, reality called them home. They had a wedding to plan, a life to build, and a future that stretched out before them bright with possibility. As their plane touched down in Chicago, Evelyn looked at the ring on her finger and smiled. She'd started this journey as a woman trying to make her ex jealous with a reckless photo. She was ending it as a woman who'd found real love, real partnership, and a man who saw her worth even when she couldn't see it herself. Victor squeezed her hand as they prepared to disembark. "Ready to start our next chapter?" Evelyn squeezed back, her heart full of certainty. "With you? I'm ready for anything." And she was. Whatever came next, challenges, joys, the beautiful chaos of building a life together, they would face it side by side. Equal partners, chosen family. forever. The mistake that should have ruined her had instead given her everything she'd never dared to dream of, and she wouldn't change a single moment of it. Their return to Chicago brought reality rushing back in, but this time Evelyn felt ready for it. She wore her engagement ring openly, fielding congratulations from Victor's staff and curious questions from reporters who'd somehow learned about the proposal before they'd even cleared customs. Victor handled it all with his usual efficiency, making a brief statement about their engagement and politely but firmly shutting down any invasive questions about wedding plans or timelines. "We'll share details when we're ready," he told the press gathered outside Hale Industries. "For now, I'm just enjoying being engaged to the most incredible woman I've ever met." Sarah threw the promised engagement party 2 weeks later, and true to her word, it was ridiculously over the top. She'd rented out an entire rooftop venue, strung fairy lights everywhere, and somehow managed to get ice sculptures shaped like swans, despite Evelyn explicitly saying she didn't want ice sculptures. "You said you didn't care about decorations," Sarah defended when Evelyn raised an eyebrow at the elaborate setup. "That's not the same as saying no ice sculptures. Besides, Victor's paying for everything, and he told me to go wild." "I said make it special," Victor corrected, appearing beside Evelyn with champagne. "You interpreted that as summon every Pinterest board you've ever saved." "And you love it," Sarah shot back. "Admit it. This is exactly the kind of grand gesture a billionaire CEO should make for his fiancée." Victor looked at Evelyn, his eyes soft. "I'd have proposed in a parking lot if that's what she wanted. The location doesn't matter. She does." Sarah clutched her chest dramatically. "See? This is why you're perfect for her. You say romantic things and actually mean them." She grabbed Evelyn's hand. "Come on, there are people I need you to meet, important people, like my cousin who has a cake business and absolutely needs to cater your wedding." The party was everything Evelyn never knew she wanted. Friends from her old life mixed with Victor's business associates, creating an unlikely blend of personalities that somehow worked. She watched Victor charm Sarah's family, saw him laugh at her friend Katie's terrible jokes, noticed how he made everyone feel included and valued despite the obvious wealth gap. "He's really different with you," a voice said beside her. Evelyn turned to find James Chen, Victor's head of PR, holding a drink and observing the party with professional interest. "What do you mean?" "I've worked for Victor for 8 years, watched him date a parade of women who wanted his money, his connections, his name in their social media bios. He was always polite, always generous, but never present, not really." James smiled. "With you, he's actually here, actually happy. It's good to see." "Thank you for everything you did during the trial," Evelyn said. "I know you handled a lot of the press fallout." "That's my job. Though I'll admit this was more personal than most cases." James's expression turned serious. "What Castellan did, using you as leverage, exploiting your relationship, it was calculated to cause maximum damage. The fact that you and Victor came through it stronger says a lot about what you've built together." Before Evelyn could respond, Victor appeared, sliding his arm around her waist. "Stealing my fiancé, James? Just complimenting your excellent taste." James raised his glass. "Congratulations to you both. May your marriage be as successful as your PR strategy." After he walked away, Victor pulled Evelyn closer. "Having fun?" "More than I expected. Sarah really outdid herself." "She loves you. Wants you to have everything you deserve." He kissed her temple. "Speaking of which, I have something for you." "Victor, you just gave me a ring that probably costs more than most people's houses. This isn't jewelry." He pulled an envelope from his jacket. "Open it." Inside was a letter from the Alzheimer's Association, thanking Victor for his substantial donation made in honor of Margaret Moore. The amount listed made Evelyn's breath catch. "Victor, this is not enough. It'll never be enough to cure the disease that's taking your mother from you. But it's a start." His voice was gentle. "I set up an annual fund in your mother's name. Every year, on her birthday, we'll donate to research. Maybe someday, it'll help someone else's daughter keep her mother a little longer." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "You're making me cry at my own engagement party." "I excel at poor timing." But he was smiling, wiping her tears with his thumb. "I love you, Evelyn. I want to honor the people who made you who you are. Your mother is part of that." She kissed him, not caring that they had an audience, not caring about the cameras Sarah's photographer was clicking. All that mattered was this moment, this man, this life they were building together. The following Monday, Evelyn visited her mother at Lakeside. Dr. Howard met her in the lobby with an expression Evelyn had learned to dread. "She's declining rapidly," Dr. Howard said without preamble. "The clear moments are gone. She's mostly nonverbal now, doesn't recognize staff or surroundings. I wanted to prepare you before you went in." Evelyn nodded, her throat tight. She'd known this was coming, but knowing didn't make it easier. Her mother sat in her chair by the window, exactly as she had for months. But something was different. Her eyes were more distant, her posture more slumped, like she was already halfway gone. "Hi, Mom." Evelyn sat beside her, taking her hand. "It's Evelyn, your daughter." No response. Not even a flicker of recognition. Evelyn talked anyway, filling the silence with stories about the engagement party, about Italy, about the life she was building with Victor. She told her mother about the donation, about the fund that would carry her name and help other families facing this cruel disease. "I'm getting married, Mom, to an incredible man who loves me the way you always said I deserved to be loved. I wish you could meet him properly. Wish you could walk me down the aisle. Wish you could see the woman I've become." Evelyn's voice cracked. "But I know you're proud of me. Somewhere, in whatever part of you still exists, I know you're proud." Her mother's hand lay limp in hers. No squeeze, no acknowledgement, nothing. Evelyn stayed for 2 hours, holding that unresponsive hand, saying goodbye in increments because she couldn't bear to do it all at once. When she finally left, Victor was waiting in the parking lot. He'd cleared his afternoon schedule, knowing she'd need him after this visit. "How bad?" he asked as she slid into the car. "She's gone. Not physically, but everything that made her my mother. It's gone." Evelyn stared at her engagement ring, watching light refract through the diamond. "I don't know how to let go of someone who's still breathing." "You do it slowly, one day at a time, and you let the people who love you help carry the weight." Victor started the car. "Where do you want to go? Home? Somewhere else?" "The bookstore. The one near Millennium Park that you love." He didn't question it, just drove. They spent the next 3 hours wandering through shelves of first editions and rare books, Victor explaining the history of various volumes while Evelyn let his voice wash over her. It was exactly what she needed: normalcy, distraction, the comfort of his presence without demands or expectations. That evening, curled up on their couch with takeout and wine, Evelyn made a decision. "I want to get married soon. Not in a year or 6 months. Soon." Victor set down his wine glass. "How soon?" "A month. Maybe less. I want my mother there, even if she doesn't know what's happening, even if she can't remember it 5 minutes later. I want her to see me marry you." Understanding flooded Victor's expression. "Then we'll make it happen. Whatever you want, however you want it. A month from today, you'll be my wife." "You can plan a wedding in a month?" "Evelyn, I built a billion-dollar empire from nothing. I think I can handle wedding logistics." His smile was gentle. "Besides, I don't need elaborate. I just need you, me, and someone legally authorized to marry us. Everything else is negotiable." They planned it together over the next 2 weeks. Nothing huge or ostentatious, just close friends and family in the rooftop garden at their building, overlooking the city where they'd met and fallen in love. Sarah helped coordinate, turning her Pinterest obsession into actual useful planning. Victor's assistant handled vendors with military precision, and Evelyn found a dress that made her feel beautiful without trying too hard. 3 weeks before the wedding, Evelyn's phone rang at 2 in the morning. She knew before answering what it meant. "Miss Moore, this is Dr. Howard. Your mother's condition has deteriorated significantly. We don't think she has much time left. If you want to be here, I'm coming." Evelyn was already out of bed, grabbing clothes. Victor was right behind her. They made it to Lakeside in 15 minutes. Dr. Howard met them outside her mother's room. "She's comfortable, not in pain, but her breathing is labored and her vitals are declining. It could be hours or days, but I wanted you here." Evelyn entered the room with Victor's hand in hers. Her mother lay in bed, eyes closed, each breath a visible struggle. She looked so small, so fragile, like she might disappear if Evelyn looked away. "I'm here, Mom." Evelyn sat beside the bed, taking her mother's hand. It was cold, almost weightless. "I'm here and I'm not leaving." Victor pulled up a chair beside her, his presence solid and grounding. "I'll stay with you, as long as you need. You have a board meeting at 9. I have exactly one priority right now, and it's you." His voice left no room for argument. Everything else can wait. They sat vigil through the night. Evelyn talked to her mother about everything and nothing. Childhood memories, recent joys, the wedding that was coming in 3 weeks that her mother would never see. "I wish you could walk me down the aisle," Evelyn whispered as dawn light filtered through the windows. "Wish you could meet Victor properly, see how happy he makes me. Wish you could tell me all the mother of the bride things I'm going to miss out on." Tears slid down her cheeks. "But I'm going to be okay, Mom. I found someone who loves me, someone who sees me. You don't have to worry about me anymore." Her mother's breathing changed, becoming slower, more labored. "Doctor." Howard checked her vitals and gave Evelyn a meaningful look. "It's almost time," she said gently. "Say what you need to say." Evelyn leaned close, her lips near her mother's ear. "Thank you for everything. For raising me, for loving me, for teaching me to be strong, for giving me permission to be happy. I'm going to live the most extraordinary life, Mom. I'm going to make you proud every single day, and I'm going to remember you, the real you, before the disease. I'll remember your laugh, your stories about Italy, the way you used to call me your butterfly." Her voice broke. "I love you so much. It's okay to let go now. It's okay to rest." Her mother took 3 more shallow breaths, then nothing. The silence was absolute and final. Dr. Howard checked for a pulse, then gently closed her mother's eyes. "I'm so sorry for your loss." Evelyn sat frozen, still holding her mother's hand, unable to process that the woman who'd given her life was gone. The tears came slowly at first, then harder, until she was sobbing against Victor's chest while he held her and whispered words she couldn't hear over the sound of her grief. They stayed until her mother's body was taken away. Stayed through paperwork and condolences and the surreal process of planning a funeral while planning a wedding. Victor handled everything Evelyn couldn't, making calls and arrangements with quiet efficiency while she sat in shock. The funeral was small, intimate. Sarah spoke about the Margaret she'd known, Evelyn's mother before Alzheimer's, the woman who'd been vibrant and funny and full of stories. Evelyn managed a short eulogy, talking about butterfly hunts in the park and the mother who'd always believed she could be anything. Victor stood beside her throughout, his hand never leaving hers, his presence the only thing keeping her upright. After the burial, after the reception, after everyone had gone home and it was just the 2 of them in the penthouse, Evelyn finally broke down completely. "I know it's a relief," she sobbed. "I know she's not suffering anymore, but I miss her. I miss having a mother, even one who didn't know me. I miss the possibility that she might have one more clear moment." "You're allowed to miss her," Victor said, holding her tight. "You're allowed to grieve what you've lost and what you'll never have. There's no right way to feel right now." "I don't want to postpone the wedding," Evelyn said suddenly. "I know it seems wrong to get married so soon after losing her, but she told me to live, to be happy. Postponing feels like dishonoring that." "Then we don't postpone." Victor pulled back to look at her. "We get married exactly as planned. We celebrate our love and the life we're building, and we honor your mother by choosing joy even in grief." The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of funeral arrangements and final wedding preparations. Sarah handled most of the wedding details, insisting Evelyn needed to focus on healing. Victor worked from home, never more than a room away, always ready when Evelyn needed to talk or cry or just be held. The night before the wedding, Sarah came over for what she called mandatory best friend time. She found Evelyn on the terrace, staring out at the city lights. "You okay?" Sarah asked, handing her a glass of wine. "I don't know. I'm getting married tomorrow and my mother just died. I should be happy, but I just feel—" "Everything at once?" Sarah finished. "That's normal, babe. Grief and joy can exist together. Your mom would want you to be happy tomorrow." "I know. She told me to live, to stop spending my life watching her fade. This is me living. It just feels strange to do it without her." "She'll be there," Sarah said firmly. "Maybe not physically, but she'll be there. And she'll be so proud of the woman you've become. The woman who survived heartbreak and blackmail and loss and still chose to love anyway. Evelyn hugged her best friend tight. Thank you for everything, for being there through all of this. That's what best friends do. We show up. Sarah pulled back, wiping her eyes. Now go to bed. You have a billionaire to marry tomorrow, and you need to look amazing doing it. The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful. Evelyn woke alone. Victor had spent the night at a hotel to preserve tradition, and for a moment felt the crushing weight of her mother's absence. Then Sarah burst through the bedroom door with coffee and croissants and a schedule that left no time for sadness. Hair and makeup in 30 minutes, dress fitting in 2 hours, photos at 4, ceremony at 6. You're getting married today, Evelyn Moore, and it's going to be perfect. It was. The rooftop garden had been transformed into something magical. White flowers everywhere, soft lighting that made the space glow. Chairs arranged in intimate rows facing an arch covered in roses. The guest list was small, maybe 50 people, but every single one of them mattered. Evelyn stood in the preparation room, staring at herself in the mirror. Her dress was simple ivory lace, elegant without being overdone. Her hair fell in soft waves, and her makeup was natural but polished. She looked like a bride. She looked happy. Your mom would love this dress, Sarah said, adjusting the veil. She always said you looked best in simple things that let your natural beauty show. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. Don't make me cry. I'll ruin my makeup. Waterproof mascara, babe. Cry all you want. Sarah hugged her carefully. You ready for this? More than I've ever been ready for anything. Music started playing, a string quartet Victor had hired. Sarah handed Evelyn a bouquet of white roses and butterflies, real ones somehow, fluttering among the blooms. Victor's idea, Sarah explained. He remembered you telling him about butterfly hunts with your mom. Evelyn's heart cracked open. Of course Victor remembered. He remembered everything. Sarah walked down the aisle first. Then it was Evelyn's turn. She stepped out onto the terrace, and the world narrowed to a single point. Victor, standing under the rose arch, looking at her like she'd hung the moon and stars. She walked toward him alone. No father to give her away. No mother to cry happy tears. Just her, choosing him, claiming her own happiness with both hands. When she reached him, Victor took both her hands in his eyes suspiciously bright. You're beautiful, he whispered. Absolutely beautiful. The officiant began. Evelyn barely heard the words, too focused on Victor's face, on the way he was looking at her like she was his entire world. Victor, the officiant said, do you take Evelyn to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do you part? I do. Victor's voice was strong and sure. Absolutely I do. Evelyn, do you take Victor to be your lawfully wedded husband? To have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do you part? Evelyn smiled through happy tears. I do. They exchanged rings, simple platinum bands that matched each other. Victor's hand shook slightly as he slid hers on, and Evelyn loved him even more for being nervous, for caring so much about getting this right. By the power vested in me by the state of Illinois, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Victor, you may kiss your bride. Victor cupped her face in his hands, his touch infinitely gentle. I love you, Evelyn Hale. I love you too. She barely got the words out before he was kissing her, thorough and claiming and absolutely perfect. Their guests erupted in applause. Butterflies scattered from Evelyn's bouquet, fluttering up into the Chicago sky like tiny prayers. And for the first time since her mother died, Evelyn felt complete peace. The reception was exactly what they'd wanted. Intimate, joyful, focused on celebration rather than spectacle. They danced under string lights while the city glittered below them. They cut a cake that Sarah had definitely over-ordered. They laughed at terrible toasts and cried at beautiful ones. During their first dance, Victor held Evelyn close and whispered, "Thank you." For what? For taking a chance on me. For seeing past the reputation and the power to the man underneath. For choosing me even when it would have been easier to run. He pulled back to look at her. You saved me, Evelyn. I was so lonely before you, and I didn't even know it. You brought light into my life. You saved me too, Evelyn said. You taught me I was worth choosing, that I deserved to take up space and be seen and demand the life I wanted. We saved each other. Best mistake you ever made, sending me that photo. Evelyn laughed. Best mistake I ever made. Later, after the guests had left and the venue was quiet, they stood on the terrace looking out at their city. Evelyn's head rested on Victor's shoulder, his arm around her waist, both of them content to just exist in this perfect moment. I have a wedding gift for you, Victor said suddenly. You already gave me the honeymoon to Greece. This is different. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. Open it. Inside were legal documents. It took Evelyn a moment to understand what she was reading. Then it clicked. You're establishing a foundation for Alzheimer's research? The Margaret Moore Foundation for Alzheimer's Research and Family Support. Fully funded, with an endowment that will sustain it permanently. Victor's voice was gentle. Your mother's legacy won't just be in our memories, Evelyn. It'll be in the lives we help, the families we support, the research we fund. Every person we help keep their mother a little longer. That's her impact on the world. Evelyn couldn't speak, could barely breathe past the emotion flooding through her. This gift, this impossible, generous, perfect gift, honored her mother in ways she'd never imagined. I don't know what to say. Say you'll help me run it. Say you'll take all that compassion and strength you showed your mother and extend it to other families facing this nightmare. Say you'll turn your grief into something that helps people. Yes, the word came out fierce. Yes, I'll help you. I'll dedicate myself to it. We'll make it something extraordinary. We already are something extraordinary, Victor said, pulling her close. Everything else is just details. They kissed under the stars. Two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way and built something real from the ruins of a mistake. The photo that should have destroyed them had instead created a foundation for love that would last a lifetime. 6 months later, Evelyn stood in the offices of the Margaret Moore Foundation, looking at the photos covering one wall. Families they'd helped, research they'd funded, support groups they'd established. The foundation had taken off faster than anyone expected, fueled by Victor's resources and Evelyn's passion. She'd found her calling, advocacy for Alzheimer's patients and their families. She spoke at conferences, wrote articles, pushed for policy changes. And every day, she did it in her mother's name. Victor appeared beside her, coffee in hand. Ready for the board meeting? Always. She took the coffee, kissing him in thanks. How's our quarterly funding looking? We're ahead of projections. The gala last month brought in significant donations. Plus, we have 3 new corporate sponsors. His smile was proud. You're changing lives, Evelyn. Your mother would be so proud. We're changing lives, she corrected. This is ours, together. Together, he agreed. That evening, they returned to the penthouse, their home, filled now with both their histories and their future. Photos of Evelyn's mother sat beside Victor's family pictures, her books mixed with his first editions, their lives completely intertwined. Evelyn stood on the terrace where they'd gotten married, looking out at the city that had witnessed their entire journey. From that first Christmas Eve when she'd sent the wrong photo, through blackmail and trials and loss, to this moment of hard-won peace, Victor joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. What are you thinking about? He asked. How far we've come. How different my life is from what I imagined a year ago. She turned to face him. I thought sending you that photo was the worst mistake of my life. Turns out it was the best thing that ever happened to me. To us, Victor corrected. Best thing that ever happened to us. I'm pregnant, Evelyn said suddenly. Victor froze. What? I found out this morning. I was going to wait for a romantic moment to tell you, but I can't keep it in anymore. She laughed at his stunned expression. We're having a baby, Victor. You're going to be a father. His face transformed, shock giving way to pure joy. He lifted her, spinning her around while she laughed and clung to him. We're having a baby, he repeated, wonder in his voice. A baby. Our baby. Are you happy? Happy? Evelyn, He set her down carefully, like she was made of glass. I'm everything. Terrified and thrilled and so in love with you I can barely think straight. We're going to have a family." "We already are a family," Evelyn said, putting his hand on her still flat stomach. "We've been building it since the day you chose me over your reputation, since the day you defended me in front of cameras, since every moment you've shown me what real love looks like." Victor kissed her, soft and reverent. "Margaret," he said against her lips. "If it's a girl, we name her Margaret." Tears spilled down Evelyn's cheeks. "Mom would love that. She'd love you, the woman you've become, the life you've built, the family you're creating." He pulled her close. "And she'd love knowing that her granddaughter will grow up in a world where Alzheimer's has a little less power because her mother fought to make it so." They stood there as the sun set over Chicago, two people who'd found each other in chaos and built something beautiful from the wreckage. The photo that had brought them together was long deleted, but its impact rippled out endlessly, in the foundation bearing her mother's name, in the love they'd chosen every day, in the future growing inside her. Evelyn thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, invisible, lonely, convinced she was meant to stay small. That woman would never recognize the person she'd become, would never believe she could be this happy, this fulfilled, this thoroughly loved. But she'd taken a chance, made a mistake, sent a photo to the wrong person, and that wrong person had turned out to be exactly right. "I love you," she whispered to Victor as stars began appearing overhead. "Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. Thank you for choosing me when you could have walked away. Thank you for building this life with me." "Thank you for being brave enough to let me," Victor replied, "for trusting me with your heart when you had every reason not to, for teaching me that love is worth more than power or control or any empire I could build." He kissed her forehead. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Evelyn Hale. You and our baby. You're my entire world." They went inside together, ready to face whatever came next. The foundation would grow. Their family would expand, challenges would come, and they'd face them side by side. But the most important thing, the thing that mattered above all else, was already secure. They'd chosen each other, not once, but every day. Through scandal and grief, joy and triumph, they'd built something unbreakable. The photo that should have ruined her had instead revealed everything she was meant to become. And looking at Victor, at the life they'd created, at the future stretching bright before them, Evelyn knew with absolute certainty that she wouldn't change a single moment. Every mistake, every heartbreak, every impossible twist of fate had led her here. To love, to purpose, to a man who saw her worth when she couldn't see it herself, to home. And that was worth everything.